He magically fills bottle 999, then hits 1000. That's it, today's party is over. He checks his watch. Perfect, still early. It moved fast, he argued. Distilled water is the key to porcelain and life, since water quality dictates the final result. His distilled water is top tier, perfectly infused with pure magic. He snaps his watch shut to study after lunch, but a man bursts in, shouting a greeting to the roster master. He turns to see Master Lee Hilsum. Russ identifies him as he asks why he's here and what he needs. Blacksmithing alchemist La Hilsum grins with rage, speechless. Typical for the basic research department. He stops cold. Doesn't he matter, the association head wants you? Rust is stunned as Lee Hilsum bolts. He knew Lee Hilsum was always linked to him. Rust defends his research budget, while Lee Hilsum runs the armor department, the company's biggest moneymaker. Rust wonders why Lee Hilsum is in such a great mood. He grabs a box of water, says he's buying distilled, and yells at the maids to mind their own business. Rust enters the chief's office, clueless. The boss tosses him a document. Basic research is getting its budget slashed. Rust grabs the papers, stunned. The guy screams, "There's zero budget." Rust claims basic research has zero results and only assists others, so the boss shifts their budget to the profitable departments. Rust argues they can still act, but the chief shuts him down. Fundamental research is dead, everyone. Transfer to new departments now. The boss says he should be grateful he's not fired yet. Once the plan is set, he's back to training. Rust fumed, arguing was pointless. Without basic research, these tubes wouldn't even exist. The guy snatched the papers and bailed. Rust assumed the basic and formula departments collaborated, using materials supplied by fundamental research. Rust sighed. The association head's prejudice and ignorance were the only reasons their research section looked like a failure. He slumped into his chair, staring at the ceiling. As the new association head, he knew staff numbers would tank, but he kept grinding for them anyway. Rust boasts that no breakthrough is possible without his basic sciences department. They need top-tier materials. He's exhausted, but he's prepped it all. Budget cuts are gutting research, and Rust knows he's too powerless to challenge the chairman. Hearing the noise, the guy asks who sent the message as Rest watches the typewriter click. Peak modern metalwork. Rust claims his team forged the base materials as he grabs the letter. Rest gets a letter from Corinne about graduation. They were close comrades on the same wavelength, and now she has an amazing offer for him. As kids, they trashed class into a jungle, forcing me to write endless apologies. Rust called it stupid, but the guy suspected she fought in the border war. Russ explains the situation. Corinne knows she seems rude, but she's finally telling him the truth. Karen landed a border thief and needs Russ to develop it. Now he faces two paths. He weighs his future as a life of endless chores versus a blank parchment where anything is possible. Rust stares out, asking to quit, but his friend just wants to have fun with Corinne again. Serving the ex-president was a dream job. He actually had feelings for him. Ex-President Hallhammer was a research expert, touching the books. Rest remembered the recipes they built together. Lusuto and the research section are the association's beating heart. He grabs his bag and bolts. After the political chaos, Hariyama's out, replaced by Cooperative M's head, a former official. Rest stops at the head's office and eavesdrops on Lee Hyal. Sam drops a file. It's every bit of info on the gunsmith's page. The boss confirms the deal, funding armor development are hyped. Layhill plans his agency, while the head orders him back to the arsenal samples. Rest fumed, wishing they'd just keep it down. He knocks and barges in without waiting. The boss screams, "You can just walk in here." Rust slams his resignation on the table and stares the boss down. He's quitting. Shocked, the head demands answers, but Rust ignores them and walks out. Lahelson screams, demanding why he's quitting, while the head bellows that he's not going anywhere. He drops the files, coldly stating he can quit any time. The head and Halesome scan the pages, their faces instantly twisting in terror. Russ says his contract only covers basic research, but thanks to a certain someone, that department just got axed. "You are free to quit today." Rust waves goodbye, but a furious Lehal snaps, "Who's going to do the chores and make his distilled water?" He tells him to cook it himself. No contract needed. He's a necromancer, and the job is simple. The boss tells him to scram, so Hilsum claims he's got it covered. When the boss presses him, Hilsum gives a shaky confirmation. The boss rejects anyone ungrateful for the offer, even for a handyman, Gig, his eyes scream, "Get out!" Rest rejects the pity, slams the door, and storms down the hall. He stops at a painting of a massive dragon lunging at a man. The stranger reaches out. Rust took one last look at the painting. The man thanked him, and Rust left the association for good. Rust heads out of town and shouts that he's quitting. Lease cancelled, he's hyped and finally free. He pulls a scroll, asking if they're still heading to Karen. He roars the incantation, touching the scroll as it erupts in light. The behemoth Commostival arrives. Rust grins, hops on his back, and yells for him to go. The beast bolted for the border. Rust figured Kali Lung's territory sat on the country's northern outskirts. Rust tells Collie he's her new guard, and she welcomes him with open arms. He thinks she's overreacting, but he's stuck. Rust rode the behemoth into the forest, reuniting with an old friend while scouting the terrain. He remembers this paradise from a past supply run a floral heaven with fresh air and sweet scents. Rust's free and starts collecting, hoping for settlements by the lake. The behemoth thrashed its head and tail, then lunged. Rest realized these were warning signs something was horribly wrong. Russ warns Behemoth to stay sharp, suspecting the alarm's wooden crackers belong to the king. Then spots an unconscious girl on the ground. He leaps off the behemoth, shouting a warning. Russ scans for fake foreigner traps, but knows the risk here is slim. Rust eyes the girl. She's a rare night priest. He crouched to check her. Rust was sure she was the revenge goddess's priest, but her skin was burning with a massive fever. He thought she was out cold, so Rust asks if she knows about the fever herb nearby. He flips her over to clear her airway and check her vitals, apologizing for the touch. Rust stared in shock. She was burning up, deathly ill. Compression, the absolute worst. He had to save her. Rust unfolds the scroll, magic wrapping the girl. The man talks him into starting the creation. The scroll scans her data. She's burning up with a fever, and her health is failing. The alchemist is in deep trouble, and Rust knows she's been through hell. He scanned the scroll and finally found the fever's cause. Rust sees her side wounds and realizes it's a familiar poison. His potions are useless here. Scanning the forest plants, Rust realizes they need a new healing potion. Rust hunts for herbs, ordering the behemoth to guard the girl. He bolts into the forest, but stops, gasping for air. Rust wipes his brow, regretting every skipped workout. Training starts now, or he's done. To keep breathing, Rust slams the potion. He spots a grassy lake and cheers. This is exactly what he was looking for. Rust noticed the grass thinning. The guy confirmed someone harvests them regularly. Rust sorts the herbs, body region, injury healing, and detox, then grabs the last plant. Raw plants are weak, but as potions, their power spikes. He smirked any earlier, and this poison would have been impossible to stop. He vows to brew the potion, recalling his brother once suffered the same fate. Russ summons his scroll and starts crafting the cure. Russ names the 5 essentials: creation, liberation, and gravitational yoke. Time to cleanse. A massive water drop appears. Rust always preps Araman X to avoid potion fails. But his obsession with crafting everything is a massive problem. This water is a concept. She's becoming her true self. To master perfection, Rest reads 1,000 books and brews 1,000 potions daily. Training to craft the world's purest elixir. Rust grins, knowing pure water heals best. He starts mixing, blending the liquid with herbs to create the ultimate potion. Perfectly balanced, the water turns violet. Rust touches the drop. It's pure potions ready. He thinks he's done, all to save that wounded, unconscious girl. He bottled the medicine for her. Rust smiled, impressed, and headed back. Rust returns to the girl, shocked as the behemoth stomps and thrashes its head. Is it angry or just playing? Rust watches, wondering what the beast will do next. The behemoth thrashes the earth in a blind rage. Rust watches, confused. What happened to this thing? Rust rushes over, asking what happened while he was gone. The hippo gestures for him to come closer. A massive footprint with a black spot marks the ground. Rust realizes it's a familiar and tells the beast to hold on tight. Touching the strange liquid, he notes its odd timing. Rust suspects he followed her here and approaches the girl to apologize. Saving her was his only mission. He poured the medicine, the final drops hitting her face. Her wounds vanish as she wakes up. She asks what happened, then her eyes snap wide. She bolts up, leaps back from Rust and takes a stance, demanding to know if he's her enemy. Rust expected a quick thanks and goodbye, but her reaction shocks him. Pointing at a hippo track, he tells her, "If you're looking for your stalker, he's right here." She stares him down, afraid to look away. Finally, she turns and finds a creature watching her. She grabs her sword and asks Rastui what's up. He almost mentions the association, but backtracks. Russ claims he's just a broke, wandering alchemist, barely hiding his slip-up. He see jobless and out of the association, but the habit remains. The girl leans in and yells about his alchemy. Rust flails in shock, telling her to pipe down. Russ apologizes for healing her without permission, but the poison's still lingering. He didn't do anything else. He hands her the potion. She inspects it, bows and thanks him deeply as Rust smiles back. She eagerly asks what she owes him, ready to do anything to pay him back. Rust scratched his head, realizing she totally misunderstood. He didn't want her thanks, but she thinks she's still sick and needs to pay for a full cure. Rust insists he's no threat, and she owes him nothing for the help. He pulls a potion and points, wanting her awake to drink it herself. She smiles, waving off his apology. She's the one sorry for being so guarded. That's why she asked what he wanted. Rust blushes at her beauty, smiling now that the air's clear. She finally admits he's a good guy. She eyes the bottle, praising his top-tier potions. No way these are free, and she's dead serious. Russ grins, pulls out a bag of meds, and offers a deal if she's serious. Rast proudly claims he's a wandering alchemist serving Karin, lady of the northern border, and if trouble strikes, her blade has his back. He waves with a wide grin and asks her name. Rust pulls a potion. Grinning that she owes him one, she smiles back. Handing him a sword, she reveals she's Tora, goddess of revenge and one of the 3 night swords. Remember the name? She's the one who purges evil. Taurus stares him down, claiming her sword did all the work. Rust smiles at her massive ego and hands her a potion. Tora downs the drink, startled. She stares at her hands and gasps, "I feel warm." Tora touches her face and draws her sword. One look at the reflection confirms her guess. She stares back in total disbelief. She wept with joy. Her curse finally broken. Rust looked away, embarrassed to see her cry. Dora weeps, claiming no holy water can break this curse, but Rust suspects it's just a side effect of the potion that lifted it. He insists it's pure water, a divine potion way stronger than holy water. Rest smiled at her joy. He scaled the behemoth, treating the curse removal as a bonus. If she lets him, he's got a surprise waiting. Behemoth charges Rust, yells for Tor to wait just 1 minute. She tries to grab him, screaming for him to stop, but Rust ignores her. He knows his mission and starts hunting for his next objective. Tora eyes the golden bottle. The legendary elixir. She's now in Rust's debt for life. She held the bottle to the light. Tora joked about her savior, her hands buzzing with energy. He points her to the northern border. She leaves the forest, vowing revenge before heading north. Thora and Rast drift apart. Love fuels existence, but few know the world's hidden truth. Night falls. The behemoth stops and Rust hops off. He pats the beast, calling a halt under tonight. Stunningly bright stars. Leaving Tora, Rest heads north. Staring at the stars by his campfire, he clears his mind. It's been ages since he's had a night like this after scouting the association until dawn. He's finally hit the woods. Rust checks the map. A northern village is close. He bites his candy bar, but when the behemoth tries to swipe a piece, Rust shuts him down. He'd be eating this the whole journey, a grain and fruit bar he accidentally invented during his past research. Karen gave him a bizarre name. Grass Brick Rust remembers the candy bar, takes a bite, and admits he actually tastes pretty good. He looked at the stars. Rust said they had to reach the village by tomorrow evening, so he hit the hay. Next day, they suddenly stop. Rust hops off and checks his map. Stunned to realize the behemoth led them straight to Tom Village. He enters a ghost town. This should be Corinne's village, but he didn't expect it to be this deserted. Rust pets the beast, smiling. He tells them to explore since he's fine, thanks him for everything, then casts a spell to head home. He rolls the scroll, promising another journey. Rust moves to leave, but a stranger stops him, demanding his name. The man spots him in shock. Rust introduces himself as a wandering alchemist, but the guy cuts him off, screaming in disbelief at the title. The man invites Rasta to meet the head man. Rust hesitates, then agrees. Rust scans the city, passing decaying shops and dried-up wells. Everything here is ancient. Rust noticed the growing emptiness. Abandoned homes were everywhere. The man stopped at a grand mansion. He spots dried herbs and door twigs. The headman's house, recent activity proves the village was active until it was suddenly disrupted. He bangs on the door, yelling to the headman that he's brought an alchemist. An old man hobbles out, asking if this guy's a real alchemist. The man hasn't checked yet, but says he definitely looks the part. Rust flashes a medallion showing a tree, scales, moon, and sun. Smiling, he introduces himself as a wandering alchemist, using the crest as his official proof. He leans in to inspect the locket, apologizing for his rudeness, but needing answers. The village head claims he's an alchemist. Only pros carry those medallions, and his rank is the absolute highest. Rust stared at the medallion. It wasn't about dignity, it was just a badge of rank. He brushed it off. This is a first-rank medallion, but in the Alchemist Association, most members, even the Leeholes, already hold the max rank. Russ's old guild was elite, so why hide? He grins and tells the headman he's a top-tier alchemist. Apologizing for his subordinate's rudeness, the headman invites Rust inside for tea, but he's actually got a favor to ask. Rust figures the empty houses are for services. Their respect for top alchemists proves they're educated, so he thanks the headman for the invite. They sit as a woman serves cheap tea, apologizing for the quality. Russ senses trouble brewing, but smiles and thanks her anyway. He caught the aroma and grinned. After surviving on food bars and cheap leaves, this warm tea was a massive upgrade. The chief cuts to the chase, asking Rust if he has any old-school magic stones. Rust is shocked. He wants old stones. The man sets his mug down, saying his answer depends on the details. Rust grills the headman. Why those stones? Smirking, the man quizzes Rust on last year's magic weapon reform. He remembers Rust recalls Lee Hale from blacksmithing, bragging for a week about a weapon he'd forged. He claimed the weapon would boost his status, but Rosta's contact snapped, calling the reform a cheap rebrand. Now his weapons were nothing but useless sticks. The headman scolded Zara, but he was right. The elder asked Zara to fetch them, and he agreed. Rust pressed for more details. He drops two similar pistols. The boss calls the plain one an old model, but the decorated one is new magic. The headman says magic weapons were vital for amateurs before the reform now. Everything's changed. The headman says this old model is reliable and cheap. Its magic stone fuel lasts forever, making it the ultimate partner for life on the border. The classic H32 is elite, but the immortal model is a fan favorite that people trust with their lives. Russ gripped the weapon, recalling when he and Master Hullhammer first forged this model at the association, a blade so perfect its wielder only dies of old age. Experts trashed this cheap powerhouse as junk, but Rust knew she was perfect for regular people, exactly what he expected from Master Hullhammer. He claims the R001 rivals a divine weapon, but Zar snaps, calling it total garbage, until the chief tells him to watch his mouth. The old man admits Rust was right. Power S up, but the weapon shatters after just 12 shots. The headman warns it's getting worse. The R001 needs rare magic stones for fuel, and they're too expensive to keep it running. Zar says the old model packs enough power. The headman agrees, but production on the units and magic stones has stopped. Old magic gear is useless without stones. Zar bought new guns, but they're garbage and cost a fortune to run. They cut costs and ignored monster attacks, but their gear still shattered and exploded anyway. Zar warns that monster and beast attacks are skyrocketing. The headman says fear gripped the providers, but Rust cuts in. So you were forced to flee to safer lands. He finally gets why they need the stones. The headman excitedly asks for them, but Rust awkwardly admits he's empty-handed. Zar and the chief stare in pure frustration. Rust smiles and offers to craft them himself, stunning Zar and the headman. The old man accepts, but Zar shouts it's awesome, leaving Rust shocked. His simple offer was such. He reminds them his help isn't free. Terrified, they agree. Rust asks for forest resources, leaving Zar and the headman stunned. Zar asks if that's all. Their forest is packed with Kageli trees, but what's the use? Rust's thrilled they're everywhere. He expected this from Alchemy ignorant fools. But now settlers are struggling to plant Kagel. Rust insists old law is clear. Every village needs a Kageli tree. Outside, the villagers agree to his request. The headman then offers to lead him straight to Kagel Grove. In a tiny village with zero entertainment, a crowd was guaranteed. But Russ noticed something chilling. There were almost no children. They hit Kagel Grove, and Rust is blown away by the incredible forest. He asks the crowd for a hand gathering the materials dropped by the kagals. The headman orders the newcomers to work, demanding they harvest and bring back kajali branches and fruit. The deal wrapped fast. Rust thanked them for the help. As the man grabbed the kaggle fruit, satisfied, Rust breaks down magic stone ingredients, starting with a monster stone, but that's only the beginning. He sealed them in scrolls and invoked creation. He asks what's happening. It's an alchemist's secret scroll. Someone yells he's using 3 creation abilities at once. It's an incredible sight. Rust stayed silent, listening to their ignorant chatter. They knew nothing about alchemy. He'd show them his true power later, but for now it wasn't worth the trouble. They shouted purification. Everything gleamed. Russ grins, ready to flex his secret using monsters to forge stones from magic in the air. Monster stones don't just spawn, they crystallize inside monsters over time. Absorbing magic from the atmosphere, Rust realized he could crystallize magic straight from the air to create stones, skipping the cost of hunting monsters entirely. Black fog rolls in. Rust realizes it's just high-density magic particles. The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. They were clueless, but they definitely recognized Rust's signature cleansing scroll. Only he and the universe can create these stones, so no wonder they're clueless. Rust knows his unique method is priceless. He tosses a kajeli fruit into the black fog, and it transforms. Rust turns the common kajeli fruit into a vessel to crystallize magic particles. He kneels to polish as a fierce wind kicks up. Someone yells about a wind funnel, but it's a tornado. Rust grins, hoping the stone creation looked easy, totally shocked by the crowd's reaction. Rust tosses kageli fruits into the funnel, infusing them with magic to shape the particles. Rust realized his high-quality stone needed one final touch: the cut. This scroll's tornado is powered by diamond dust. Tweak the density and spin speed to carve flesh with surgical precision. Rust reaches out. It's time. He densifies the diamond dust, making the sparkling tornado swell. She's mesmerized, and Rust realizes every girl reacts the same way to shiny things. Magic stones are judged by 3 traits, but size and strength are key if they don't sync. The stone is useless. The stone's power is all in the cut. Rust remembers the stone's exact proportions and makes quick adjustments to ensure it's not too small. Rust remakes the scroll and triggers the formation. It's ready. Time for the final seal on the kagli fruite particles. Rust grinned, staring at the magic stone in his palm. Rust gripped the stone. It was ready and even better than he'd hoped. The crowd stared in shock. He'd actually created a magic stone. Russ hands the headman a weapon to test, and he hesitantly agrees. Trembling under the crowd's gaze, the old man loads a magic stone and fires his pistol into the air. A shot rings out. The crowd roars, the stone works, and fear is gone. Rust smiles at their joy, knowing his struggle was finally worth it. He wasn't finished. Summoning the scrolls, he orders a triple simultaneous promotion, leaving the crowd speechless. Baskets of magic stones pile up before Rust. Wiping his brow, he grins. It's enough. The crowd stands speechless. Even for Rust, the process takes a full hour. Now he's teaching everyone to craft their own stones. Rust tells the people the stones are all theirs, and every single one is bursting with mana. He claims these new stones hold double the energy of his old ones, leaving the headman stunned by the massive power boost. 5 baskets of stones. That's a lifetime supply for a whole village. The old man needs the Lord's approval, leaving Rust completely stunned. The elder's never been this shocked. He didn't see this result coming, and now he's actually worried. He tells Tsar to move the stones to the village. Tsar preps, while a man rushes in with a cart, ready to roll. Rust eyes the bags of magic stones. They were everywhere, and he loved how fast they split the cases. They move to talk business. The chief offers help gathering materials, but Rust waves him off. He'll finish what he started alone. Rust calls for the scroll, grateful they volunteered the materials. He shouts to start polishing and releasing. Wind swirls, bagging loot. As Rust smirks, diamond dust is history. He's dropping it to 0, claiming he turned Kajeli's fruit and branches into a massive tornado. Rust packs up as the crowd roars. He cleared the job in seconds, a total master. Rust smiles, loving the hype. Stunned by Rust's magic, the headman loudly agrees to move their talk elsewhere. The old man promises they'll return, leaving the rest to Tsar, who loudly vows to handle it all. Rust exhales, amazed the headman understands. This village bond is unbreakable. They'll be fine. They head back to the house. Rust sips his tea with a grin. Nothing beats a post-work drink, especially when you see people genuinely loving your results. Russ is ready to talk, and the old man is all ears. Russ smiles, wondering why the head man is so terrified. The old man expects the worst, but Russ tells him to relax. This isn't what he thinks. If only one village uses these ancient stones, they'll last for years, leaving the old man in total shock. The head man says he's being too humble with their massive stone stockpile. They're set for decades. Speechless with gratitude, the head man is silenced by Rust's wave. He claims it's not just their village, the border areas need those stones too. The head man confirms it. Everyone on the border wants those old stones back, and Rust is about to find out why. He wants a deal for old-type stone supplies in Knight Karen's new territory. The old man's stunned. He's heard of the Karen Knight from the Lord. She's the girl who smashes 3 heavy infantrymen at once and won their recent wars. Her delicate hands hide in human strength and a nickname. But Rust shuts the old man down. Praising her hands felt wrong for a dragon-slaying monster. Rust told the elder Corinne was his college girlfriend, and now he's racing to her. The old man shook his head, apologizing for his rudeness. Russ wants him to talk to the Lord personally, knowing Karen's land development will cost a fortune. Rust saw a payday ahead, but only if Karen put him in charge. He's sure Karen and the Lords will close a small deal, but Russ knows it's all about building future ties. He'd already gifted the village the magic stones, leaving the head man thrilled. He sips his tea. The elder thanked him, grateful for the massive assist. Rust wants to send a letter, so the old man shouts for him to grab paper and a pen. He suspected more. He needs a root canal, and this letter is for another classmate, not Corinne. Rust demands to join the army, but a magic gem dispute stands in his way. Lee House might be involved, but Rust doesn't care. He's only interested in the military. New magic weapons mean massive profits. The second those old Rasta stones start flowing, the military will crush them. Rust finishes the letter. Satisfied, the elder offers to deliver it, and Rust accepts. After a quick thought, he seals the scroll with his medallion. Rust stands up to leave. The elder begs him to stay the night, but Rust just smiles and heads out. Outside, everyone's shocked he's leaving so soon. A woman wants her plates to sparkle. A man demands a golden axe, and another asks for a tornado to clear his weeds. Rust finishes the job, waves goodbye, and leaves the city, summoning his behemoth to hit the road. Reaching the border, Rust scans the horizon from his behemoth. The rumors were wrong. He expected a monster-filled wasteland, not a world full of life. The wasteland's crawling with bizarre life, and he has no clue if it's deadly. A monster strikes, and the behemoth stomps him flat. Rust hops down, pats his head, and thanks him. Hippos sense hostility that intel saved them. Rust eyes the crushed beast in shock. He needs it moved. Grabbing gloves and bags, he realizes this thing might be useful. Rust packs the beast and sighs. This place is a wasteland. Monsters drove everything else out, right? He grinned at the bag, eager to study all the new monsters he'd never seen before. Rust checks the map past the next watering hole. They're practically at Karina. They'll meet soon. Rust mounts the beast and they hit the reservoir. The man asks for the plan, pats his creature, and calls for a break. Rust eyes the water, wondering if monsters lurk inside. He hears a noise and braces for a fight. Black smoke rises from the water as Rust senses magic fluctuations, but why here? Suddenly, something lunges out. Rust dodges the strike, stunned to find his attacker is just a harmless baby lizard. Rust spots a rare lizard, but strange noises draw him to the water as tentacles erupt. Roster dodges the assault, shocked to see the tentacles smashing the lizard. Instead, was the lizard the target all along? The beast pitied him. Expecting help, Rust locked eyes with her. He looks like a helpless kid, but he's a monster. Don't be fooled. This cub is lethal. Rust watches the tentacles thrash the lizard. Flashy tricks are just distractions in this world. The strong devour the weak. That's the law of nature. The lizard stares him down with pity again. Rust resists, then breaks. Rust pities the beast and calls for help. The behemoth grunts, lunging straight for the tentacles. The lizard trembles in terror as the behemoth stomps the tentacles, shredding them with ease. Tentacles lay scattered as the rest dove underwater. Rust thanked him while the guy pulled out his gloves and bags again. He touches the lizard. No movement. Rust thinks she's out, but the beast is still alive. The others lift the nasty tentacle. He's disgusted, wondering if he's actually forced to eat it. He casts a scroll over the lizard, Rust triggers the scan, and the scroll harvests the beast's data before flying back. Rust blames animal biology for his reading struggle. But the other guy realizes his view is just blocked. Rust points at the scroll, grinning, he can read it perfectly. It's clear now the lizard is totally spent. Mitochondrial activity is bottoming out, making his condition impossible to read. The hippo dives in, earning a warning from Rest back. With the unconscious lizard, Rest realizes brewing a top-tier potion is impossible in this state. The behemoth battles the tentacles, while Rust stays buried in research. Unsure of her normal condition, he sticks to safe potions. A hippo emerges with monster tentacles in its teeth. Russ recognizes the beast and splashes a potion onto the lizard. He watches the beast, but nothing happens. He's baffled. The lizard won't wake up. Russ rechecks the scroll. Mitochondrial activity is surging, and he's nearly at human levels. He insists his true purpose is way bigger. The gap is massive. The behemoth taps the lizard. Russ is stunned. Hippopots are never this friendly, and he'd sense any hidden malice instantly. Is this lizard one of them? If he leaves her like this, she's dead for sure. This wasteland watering hole is crawling with monsters, and the dead tentacle beast will only draw more leave her alone, and she's dead. Rust stares at the behemoth, asking why they brought soap. They head out, map in hand. He decides they'll follow the river flowing from the watering hole. The beast stops at a steppe settlement. They've finally reached Corinne's camp. Suddenly, the behemoth lets out a strange cry, and the guy demands to know what's happening. Leaping off the beast, he flashes a medallion and shouts his name. Rust, a master, rank alchemist sent by Knight Corinne, he requests entry. Masked girls burst from the shifting sand, spears ready to drive back the invaders. Rust is stunned. A girl welcomes him, apologizing for the rough reception since border monsters mimic humans. This was the hippopotho's warning. One more step and they'd be in the strike zone. It would have been a disaster. Rust smiles and reassures the girls they're disguise experts, and those eye bandages are pure magic. They were supposedly bad at stealth, but he spotted them instantly. No wonder Karen hyped him up. The girl adds, those bandages are just scrap cloth. Rust spots blue and red eye patterns on their headbands. They look like magic items. But what's the plan? She spots a lizard on the hippo, and he screams. Terrified of the monster on his mount, Roa tells Ari to chill, but Ari senses danger. They can to let Master Rust in, or she'll be forced to fight him. Rum hesitantly agreed. Ari apologized to Rasta for her sister. Guy says it's fine, and Rust is relieved. He's glad they avoided a pointless fight. Trouble is the last thing he needs on his first day. Rust realized Ari had special vision. Her sister was likely watching from afar. Could she read their abilities? Rest couldn't shake it that White Lizard was still a major threat. He pockets the locket with a grin, telling the girls they're right to worry. He'll take full responsibility for the White Lizard and the locket. She thanks him for the kind words, but now he has to deliver. They're taking him to Mrs. Karin. She's waiting. At the tent, she waves him in. Rust enters, apologizing for the trouble. Inside the tent, the team scrambles. Send those papers now, the leader barks. Point D responded, but A and G are dead silent for the 5th time. Rust scans the comms gear and it all clicks. He's found their central intel hub. A girl rushes out cheering for Rust, and he smiles back. They shake hands as Corinne smiles. We've been waiting for you. She waved and laughed about how long it had been, teasingly noting he'd aged since they last met. Rest sighed, telling Karen to stop, it's irrelevant. She laughs at the same old Rust, while he notes how easy it was to reach this remote spot. Corinne asks Ari and Roa if they know him, then grins and asks the guy if he's all right. Rests catches the girls looking before they snap away. Stunned, they actually came to meet him. Rust saw the play. These two were the bridge to the camp, risking a civil war just to meet him. Russ scratches his head, deciding not to follow Karen's lead yet and telling her everything's fine. She grins. So that's what it means. Perfect. She marched to the magic machine, demanding Rust show up. Corinne ordered a break, and though shocked, everyone stopped their studies. Staff exit, no table. Corinne magically clears machines off boxes to make her own Rust watches, thinking she hasn't changed a bit. Corinne cheers, calling it perfect. She yells for Roa and Ari to bring tea and sits across from Rust. He asks why she cleared the room. She smiles, saying she expected him to get straight to business. Russ gloats. Knowing he was right, she wants to save everyone. They dreamed of a quiet, magic-free life, and somehow they actually got it. Corinne warns they must erase this magic to survive the harvest, but he knows her request isn't that simple. Corinne tasks Rust with treating the camp's spreading disease and uncovering the source of the outbreak. Rust accepts a private tent and heads out with his hippo, the beast sticking close to avoid getting lost in the new territory. What did Corinne mean by local disease? Did symptoms only start at the camp? Before theorizing, he needs to see the effects himself. Rust felt the local's eyes lock onto him. He flashed a wide grin, but the guy froze, terrified by their intense glares. The crowd scatters in silence. They're suspicious, but Rust needs their trust to stop this plague. The girls lead him to a tent. Ari says, "Is Master Rust's?" He smiled, glad he met them first, as Roa vowed to never take her eyes off Master Rust. Shaming. Mrs. Corinne is unforgivable. Ari snaps at her to stop, and Rust thinks he's backing down. He pets the hippo, noting his solo tent is way bigger than expected. Someone yells, "Big shot." Rust knows it's a signal to the camp. And he's right. Rust scans the room. The man points out the bare dirt floor, and Corinne clearly knows him. Before Ari and his sister bring the patients, Rust pulls out a scroll to prep. Time to cleanse. He figured a treated carpet was enough, insisting simple prep blocks, all dust and moisture. Rust sets the lizard on a blanket for safety while he tidies up. She's staying here for now, even though he's barely used the room lately. He pulls out his magic materials. It's finally time. Rust touches the scroll and shouts, summoning the rose. An alchemical rose blooms beside the sleeping lizard. Kneeling, he realized she was as useful as a hippo despite her looks. Then ordered Rosa to reinforce the cub's bed. The rose coiled its thorny stems around the lizard's bed, forming a protective cage. Rust thanked her for the win. Now he just needs to set up camp. Secretly mapping out the base in his head, he installs insulated floors and ventilation, then crafts furniture and a lab station skills. Rust mastered back in school. She assisted his research on every expedition. Now it's just a memory of Corinne's crew moving in and making themselves at home. A stranger appears with an infected patient, signaling they're ready to enter. Rust nods. His new job starts now. Rest got to work, diagnosing patients and promising custom potions. I figured it'd take all day to finish. Patch them up now, but healing is priority. We'll find the source and study it later. A patient's right arm went numb yesterday. Rust realizes the danger it could be. Paralysis, permanent damage, is a real threat. His hand is in worse shape than he thought, and now it's a race against time to save it. Ari shouts for Roa to bring the next patient, stunned as day blurs into night. Roa enters the tent, announcing the final patient of the day. Stunned by his speed, Rust thanks her with a smile, finishing every patient's treatment before sundown. The last patient reports numbness and fatigue. Rust promises a restorative potion and stays to track the progress. Rust crafts custom potions based on patient history. For now, he's strictly focused on symptomatic therapy. She needs the cause fast. Rust hands the patient a potion. To chug any delay means permanent damage. He downs the potion and screams his hands are moving. "Thanks, Doc." Rust's impressed, but he's no doctor. He's stunned. A basic potion brings this much joy, an experience he'd never survive in the association. Rust thanks Roa, but she brushes it off as just work. Rust smiles. "Wait, one more check." Rust turned to Roa and thanked him for today. He hands Roa a fatigue potion for him and Ari to share. Roa asks when he finished. Rust says he had a few spare minutes. Flustered, Roa thanks him and sprints out. Rust knows she's guarded and chooses patience. Suddenly, he remembers one last task and heads out. Rust preps Corinne's report. Grabbing a scroll, he summarizes the patient data from the exams and decryption. The summary revealed the root cause. He grabbed the treatment report, threw on his jacket, and left. Next time. Don't forget to mention the magic stone. Rest looked up, horrified by the late hour. Suddenly, two men called out, thanking him for his help. The men are stunned. Rust healed everyone in just half a day. Karen's friend is the real deal. At noon, Rust felt their judging glares. He looked up and told them to watch their backs. Rust hits the tent with a plague report and asks for Karen, but the guard just waves him inside. Perrin turns to the door, asking what happened this late. Rust hands over the case reports after just half a day. Corinne's stunned by his speed. calling him incredible as always. The report's solid, but the risk of permanent injury was real, and Rust didn't deny it. Karen thanks Rust for saving her people. Corinne's brief thanks stunned him. Rust bowed, calling it just his job, and vowed to stand by them from now on. Perrin laughs, agrees, and pivots to snacks, prepping a meal for two even though he isn't hungry. Russ admits he survives on travel rations between patients. Karen laughs. Is he still eating those grass bricks? Can't he get real food? Karen wipes a tear and points to the report, demanding the full story while they wait for food. Rust dives into the details. Next morning, Rust checks the sleeping lizard, gears up, and heads out only to find Ari and Roa waiting at his tent. He greets them, thanking them for waiting until dark. Roa credits his hard work for their recovery, and Ari thanks Rust for the potion he provided. Fatigue's gone. The effect is insane. He wants to see their faces. They seem happy. Ari and Roa say Mrs. Karen sent them to show Rust the neighborhood first. He considers it. Rust wants to hit the food storage first. They agree and lead him straight there. First, he summons a massive hippo right in front of them. Russ's guides find the hippopot hilarious as they reach a warehouse in Karen's territory, Ari and Roa's main storeroom. They rush the manager. Russ realizes the storeroom is a dugout, likely an old monster lair repurposed for storage to save on materials. Rust kneels, telling the hippo to keep watch as he pulls out a deployment scroll. He pulls out the biolocation pendulum to measure the magic concentration. Russ realizes the biolocation pendulum tracks magic energy. Stronger swings mean more power, and the data is feeding straight into the decryption scrolls. Start with the warehouse. Rust sits and swings the pendulum. Rust realizes the soil is so packed with magic that bacteria can survive, making the ground completely sterile. He looked back to see Ari and Roa sniffing the ground like hippos. Rust whispered, stunned by their help. Rust touched the mountain. Mana was dense everywhere, but nothing seemed suspicious. Food storage takes more than just a cool, dark room. This layout maximizes efficiency and is standard practice. He imagines a feast, realizing high magic kills bacteria and makes cooking safe. He doubts local microbes in the food are the cause. The real reason, remnants of the monster that once ruled this lair. Rust asks Roa if a monster really lives in this cave and what kind it is. Roa sniffs the air. It's likely a bear's lair. He grilled him on the bear S-type and powers. The stranger greeted Roster as Ari introduced the food supply manager. The manager thanks Dr. Rust for curing his brother's numb limbs and ending his depression. Rust vows to do his best. Recognizing his brother from yesterday's batch, he tells the boss, "It's awesome." Rust demands vault entry. The guard questions him, but they head inside where Rust swings his pendulum to find his gear. Rust finds stockpiles of monster meat and expertly processed plant resources. He's stunned. Everything is perfectly preserved. No poison or monster traces found. Russ thanks Ren and orders the vault sealed, but Ren wonders if that's really all. Hippopopo barks for Rust, who rushes over in shock. Seeing the discovery, Rust thanks his friend. That's all. Turns out the outbreak didn't start here. Rust isn't sure yet. First, they need to scout the entire area step by step. Roa shouts for their next move. Rust snaps open the scroll and points. This is next. He meant a vessel to purify water. This tank is for drinking and cooking. Water's scarce, so the council is rationing shares to every site. Rust checks the scroll. It's legit. This vessel isn't some old relic. It cleans perfectly and every part is flawless. Toxins in the food or water caused the numbness, so Rust checks the supplies first. Grimacing, he mutters that this one to be an easy fix. Roa offers a lunch break, but getting too close completely freaks Rust out. He nervously agreed. Roa says Rust tunes everyone out when he's focused, and Rust knows she's right. Lunch with these two is rare. He snaps back and accepts. Rust asks if Karen told them to make sure he eats, then waves Ari and Roa off, insisting he's fine. Rust remembered Corin shoving food in his mouth during school projects, so he finally listens and heads to lunch. They head in, and Roa offers a snack at the camp canteen. Ari heads to the tent for food. Roa tags along, and Rust smiles, glad he can finally count on them. Rust notes the hippo's hungry too, then uses a potion to turn crushed magic stones into a plate. He signals the hippo to eat. Alchemical beasts suffer if their magic levels aren't perfectly balanced. The hippo snaps up his meal just as Ari and Roa return with food. The menu's simple, but the chef's ingenuity shines. Rest enjoys his lunch. Rust asks if the whole camp eats here. Ari explains she doesn't. Families eat at home, so this hall is mostly for singles. The food tastes just like his old college cafeteria. Meal finished, Russ pulls out a scroll and starts reading. Rest keeps reading, but he feels Ari and Rua's gaze burning through their bandages as if they're desperate to speak. Rest spots the patient's similarities and already knows today's victims. Ari tells him to rest at lunch. No new cases today, and she hasn't spotted any similarities. Russ thanks him, then Roa mentions most are single. Ari confirmed it, most were single, just as she claimed Roa only recruited from single tents, and Rust called them total loners. Ari confirms the shop is for singles. Rust unfurls a scroll over the food, chanting to manifest its power. You excitedly ask what happened. Russ grins at the scroll he found it. He yells for the girls to stop eating. Monster poison detected. It hits the nervous system and the symptoms match perfectly. Stop everyone from eating. It might be poisoned. Rust grinned. He'd figured it out, knowing he'd seen this somewhere before. Rilla asks if he found anything. He smiles and confirms Rust tracks the sick to the single tents and canteen, but the water is clean. He's almost solved it. Ari's stunned he solved it, and Rella's curious. Suddenly the kitchen girl rushes over, asking if something's wrong with the food. Russ apologizes for the intrusion, revealing he's a Rust alchemist sent by Knight Corinne to stop a local plague. They enter a room packed with dishes. Russ clears the kitchen and checks his scroll. Readings are exactly as expected. Rust asks Roa to message Mrs. Corinne, ordering the head chef to make it happen ASAP. She nods. Rust smiles, telling the girls to meet at Mrs. Corinne's tent in an hour for the full story. An hour later, everyone gathers at Corinne's tent. The kitchen and housing leads arrive, and Corinne gives Rust the signal to start. She asks how the disease is cured, so Rust starts from the beginning. He warns of a pond upstream where a neurotoxic monster lurks, and Corinne hangs on every word. They use river water, but the tank's purification is suspect. It is not high-tech, but it neutralizes toxin. Ruff agrees. The water's clean, so that's not the problem. Corinne asks what's really going on. He says it's not drinking water, it's for the house, and Corinne screams that he's right. Rest confirmed, the laundry water comes straight from the river, and he's already scouted the loner's tent. He found traces of the same nerve toxin on the dishes and laundry. That was the culprit. Rust reveals the poison builds through skin and food, forcing the sick into isolated tents and the canteen. The chef screams an apology, and the tent leader takes the fall, but Karen shuts them both down. She rations the tank water personally and tells the staff they aren't to blame. Crenshaw shouts the plan. Check every sector and kill the monster in the upstream pond to stop the infection. Rust killed a tentacle monster. He just smiles. It's already handled. His hippo crushed it while swimming in the pond. Everyone's stunned. Rust stammers it was a total accident, but Karen's terrified. Can he see the future? Rust denies it, but points to his scrolls. The poison's formula is a perfect match. Karen says he cured the sick overnight, found the source the next day, and killed the monster behind the plague. Russ just finished yesterday. He warns everyone to avoid the river and orders all current water supplies dumped immediately. The infection's gone, the river's safe in days, and Roa confirms the pond is finally monster-free. He finished the job, finding the outbreak's source and curing the sick. Corinne smiled. Waving her hand, she shouts that Master Rust did the impossible. He blew her mind, and she's beyond grateful. Rust grins. The poison builds up slowly, causing the disease and potentially resurfacing in survivors later. He'll keep treating them if things change, and Corinne agrees to pass it on. Rest realizes it's the perfect time for a request. He asks about the purification tank, questioning their expansion plans. Rust raised a finger with a fiery grin, promising he could do it if they provided the funding. Heron promised the cash, ending Rust's first mission in his new role under Karen. He's finally escaped the city. But he isn't that naive. He has no clue what's currently going down at the Alchemist Association. Ari's taking over. Meet Ari Saad, an Admiralty officer serving under Mrs. Karen. Her sister Roa approaches, mentioning Master Rasta as they navigate the Potter Street alley. She realized they needed water, but Master Rust's order was massive, and Ari called Roa a total weirdo. Ari saw Master Rust's true power, even teaming up with Roa. They'd still lose. She realized they couldn't even touch his alchemical hippo beast, leaving them in total shock. He and Roa are Karendra's top elites, and that status is why she's so torn over Master Rust. Roa envies his strength, and Ari knows he's proud of their training, but this alchemist's unique skills have her hooked. She should scold her sister, but she can too. Deep down, she shares the same fear and hides it. Ari points out a shop. They head in to buy bottles, and she leaves her address for delivery. The seller agrees and thanks them for the sale. This street is way more intense than Potter Street. Why is everyone so gloomy? Ari claims it's safe, but Roa disagrees. She calls it a hunch, but with magic shops everywhere, they're sent to a specific store. The sisters enter the magic shop. A smiling girl greets them, and Ari remembers Master Rust told them about this place. Notice the young saleswoman. Magic tools are everywhere, but look closer. The shelves are already emptying. Ari makes an offer. The clerk smiles, asking who sent them as they lock eyes. The salesgirl's dark eyes judge them. They clearly don't look like alchemists. She slams a scroll onto the table. She unfolds the note on the cellar table, shocked to see Mr. Rust's seal, and asks the girls if they're his messengers. Ari confirms it. Master Rust sent them to sell a potion. She asks if the shop's buying, and the clerk shouts, of course. High-quality potions are incredibly rare. Rust's potions are top tier. She's ready to buy, but one thing's got her confused. Roa slams the desk, demanding answers. The seller checks the scroll. The potion's price is fixed, and here's the proof. Ari cites the roster master's orders, asking if the price is the problem. Actually, it's the opposite. Alchemy prices are skyrocketing, because association shipments are delayed, making potions cost a fortune. Seeing the owner's openness, Ari finally gets why Master Rust trusts him. Ari accepts the usual price. The woman smiles and heads off to grab the cash for the potion. The girls leave the shop with a heavy bag of coins, and Roa's stunned by the massive haul. Ari agrees a fixed price for Rust's potion is insane but expected, and Roa's told to spend the cash on travel. Ari asks Roa if she wants a tasty treat, and Roa nods eagerly. At a cafe, Roa digs in, while Ari reflects their mission started barely a day and a half ago. She insisted that before the roster master arrived, Corinne's healers had already failed to cure the disease. Terrified crowds fled as doctors' rumors spread. The Healers Guild abandoned them to their fate, but Master Rust appeared out of nowhere to save the day. Following Corinne's plan, Roa and she split the sick and rushed them to Master Rust, even those paralyzed by numb limbs. One guy is delirious with fever, but as the next patient arrives, he walks out of Master Rust's tent totally cured. Rust instantly cured the sick, found the cause, and slaughtered the monster responsible. He's on a whole different level from other alchemists. Ari suggests Master Rust can fix their eyes, and Roa instantly freezes mid-bite. They locked eyes through the cloth and shared a silent nod. Finally, they had hope to unmask. Back to Lahel Sum. He enters the alchemist's gear warehouse to find the entire room buried in slime. Shocked, he yells as Lahelsam whips out a special vacuum to clean. The man snaps, demanding to know why he's stuck with such a terrible job. Lahelsam blames Rust for everything, claiming his disrespect is why the association is failing and the masters are quitting. This vault is packed with gear far beyond dangerous. One wrong move and these monster materials will blow sky high. Budget cuts axed the research department as specialist, and Lahalson's already forgotten who took over. He fumed that the lab was shut down and hazards ignored, triggering a wave of scavenger slime explosions. Lahilsam yells entries blocked. Only masters can handle first-class threats, or he'd have sent his subordinates. Tortake bursts in shouting about trouble, drawing a furious glare from the powerful Lee Heilson. Tortake shouts it's an emergency. The armament 5EP is screaming for Master Lahilsam. He screams he should have been told sooner. Seeing the massive slime, Lahil orders any returning master rank to finish the job. Tortake gags at the stench and refuses to go on, but Lahalsam just glares and storms off, leaving him stunned. Tortake snaps that a rookie shouldn't boss around masters. It's ridiculous. Besides, who knows if anyone's ever coming back to fix this mess? He exits, warning them to shut the door before magic leaks in. Tortake reaches out, but a magic seal blocks him. The door's sealed. Without a master rank medallion, Tortake is powerless. He stares in confusion, sighs, and finally walks away. Tortake stakes out the entrance while Lahilsam heads for Armament 5 PGAN's office. He screams about the missed deadlines, but the worker snaps back. Transformation materials are still delayed. Gan's heard enough. The contract was clear. Deliver all supplies now, so the army is ready for the next war. The VP demands to know why he's stalling, break the deal, and a simple fine won to save them. He screams for Lee Hulsum, and right on cue, a breathless man bursts in apologizing. Lee Hulsum is finally here. Gan and his partner catch Lahel Sum's slime scent. The man approaches to investigate, but the VP barks at him to stay put. Gan's livid. Is this how a master alchemist treats a major partner? He tells Lee he reeks. Lee sniffs his jacket. It reeks of scavenger. He rushed here after a quick wash, but maybe he's just nose-blind to the warehouse stench. Lahel stammers an apology and bolts to change, but Gon snaps he's done, waiting for Lahel to deliver on his promise. Lahalsum eyes Sabas, the guy Gon yelled at earlier, keeping low. Sabas sends a mental signal, asking for a progress report. Sabas masks his face and turns away. Lehig's confused, but it's a signal all clear. The man tells Gan it's ready by tomorrow. Gain shouted to lock in his words. Sabasa stared at the psalm, stunned by Gain's defiance toward the VP and certain they'd never finish by tomorrow. They hit the buzzing weapons alchemy lab, where the Master High Elf finished the setup and even called in the weekend crew, leaving everyone wondering what he's cooking up. Lahusam bluntly orders Sabas to deliver the attribute-altering circuits to the Armament Association immediately. Sabasa confirms it. The army's buying fire element magic circuits and guns from the Armament Association. Liu Helthome demands to know why the delivery's late precision is key, but he's done this plenty of times. Sabasa's low on distilled water, the high-grade stuff they need to etch the circuit boards. Li Halasam demands distilled water, the most basic ingredient. It's Alchemy 101, so simple even a student can make it. Whispers erupt as Portate hands Lee a magic circuit and a testing device. Tortekeik explains it's a custom distilled water board. Lehigh slots it into the device and asks what's wrong. The crystal's packed with magic. Lee tries to ignite the flames, but nothing happens. He flags the low energy and unstable magic flow. Torteik admits he's right. Last resort use Master Rust water for solutions, but purification is the priority. Lahel slams the table, screaming at them to never speak that name. His jealousy of Master Rust is officially insane. Lahalsam's making superior distilled water, but they must finish the magic schemes now, or they're in trouble. Hours later, Lahel Sam returns with distilled water. Sabasi hands him the device's readings. Lee asks if they're elite, but Sabast knows they're barely hitting the mark. Pushing any harder will tank the quality. One mistake kills the association's rep. That's their damage control. These signs prove it. Master Russet's distilled water was on another level. Master Lahusam takes way longer to build it, but he keeps quiet, too terrified to imagine the consequences of speaking up. Sabasa clears the specs, Heilson orders production to continue, and the weary staffer just sighs typical. Tortex exhausted, and it's late, but he feels like he forgot something. Suddenly, the door blasts open and slime bursts out. Tortex panicked. The vault's open. Did the slime absorb the magic and wake up? They in deep trouble. Slime smelting the door. Is that really a scavenger? It grows every time it eats. Sabasa orders an all-out assault. Grabbing the magic circuit device, he ignites fire as slime battles slime. Hailsome yells that the magic circuits in that wooden box must be delivered. He screamed for them to stop, but slipped into the slime. They hauled him out, drenched in muck with his clothes shredded. They keep cleaning, weirdly claiming they're finished, but they're paralyzed. The room still reeks. It's a total disaster. Lahalsem, bailed, covered in slime, Skeeny enters, and Sabers notes she's finally arrived. It's urgent. She must deliver the magic schematics to the Armin Association by morning, using the transformed beast. Skinny hits the crates, asking if she should grab it all. Scanning the ward, she wearily tells them to just get it over with. Back to Corinne, it's dawn. Her hair's a mess, but she doesn't bother fixing it. They'd settle down eventually. Waking up, she dives into her favorite breakfast, a toasted steak. Food's scarce, so she shares basic snacks with her crew and trains while he hits the showers. She tackles the paperwork, meeting every new crisis with a grin. Karen promises everything's fine. Corinne dreams of holding a dying friend's hand, telling him to rest now that she's crushed the enemy. Corinne's nights are a loop. Wake up from the same dream, face crushing debt, and handle everything alone. Corinne feels helpless against a new threat to her squad, but Rust steps in to save her. She knows he's right. Her siblings were nearly lost until he saved them. Another discovery addict like her ditched the association the moment she called, leaving his worthless boss behind. She rewards his service with freedom and the support he's always deserved. Karen asks where Russ is headed. He stops, noting she's always up at dawn, but she says it's rare for him. Bored lately, Russ heads out to gather materials. Corinne agrees, but warns him to stay safe. She thanked him for the cure, and Admiral Corinne offered any reward. Now Rust wonders what's happened since. Corinne tells him to lean on his allies. His solo grind is his greatest strength, but also his biggest weakness. She knows he thinks solo is faster, but she's worried he'll burn out while no one's watching. Karen tells Russ to trust his team, swearing they won to fail. Russ smiles, realizing she's finally a true leader. Rust agreed to let Corinne spoil him. She laughed, hoping he meant it, and they set off. Corinne wakes at dawn to shorten the nights. She smiles at Russ. It's time to work. Rust and Behemoth sprint through the forest. After days away with the hippo, Rust returns with Corinne's budget to fix the water storage. Karen hands over the cash, admitting she's bad at math. Russ has the monster loot, now they just need water to get to work. He grins, bagging extra monsters along with his target. Good thing he packed those scrolls. Rust trusts the raw material's power, even if the scroll doesn't match the monster. Rust spots a settlement and tells the hippo they're almost at the camp. He enters the village to cheers as everyone asks if he's safe and how the hunt went. Rest waves back, feeling the crowd's hype for the potential water boost. Food manager Lint rushes up, shouting a welcome. Russ thanks him but immediately asks for a word. He tells Lent he hunted monsters on the way and brought the non-alchemy scraps to eat. Rust offers more food, and a shocked Lint is ready to buy Rust's already prepped the raw materials. He asks where to drop them, and Lint points to the monster butcher. Rust enters the tent, instantly swarmed by curious onlookers. The guy's weirded out by the crowd's curiosity. Litten asks Rust for the monster, meet S location, and he grins, promising the info in a minute. Rust magically wipes out giant bull monsters. He grins, asking for their thoughts, and they're sold. 4 male 2-line horns, deadly pack hunters, and Lint stunned, they're in perfect condition. He screams for backup, but Rust just grins and keeps pulling them out, unleashing a massive monster horde. Rust notes 3-star rats are toxic but tasty. 4-star hell horses have 3 heads, eat 'em raw within a day and use the skin for clothes. 6. Lint screams it's too much, as Rust watches the bald man face 1,000 rats, a hell horse, a mole bear, and unknown monsters. He tells Russ he's slain mole bears and hell horses, deadly threats. Now he's itching for a fight. Rest leaves them to it. Asking for the results later, he bolts for the exit, avoiding any conflict. He enters the tent and tells Rose he's back. Rust thanks her for nursing the lizard with the potion he left behind. Rust's condition is stable, but staying that way is a struggle since standard magic potions don't work on him. He knew mana overdose kills monsters, but if they survive the surge, they just go berserk. Rust demands long-term control, trusting Rose's precision to handle the pressure. He tells Rosa to hurry. Rust exits the tent to keep working, but the guy spots the water jugs. Rust spots Roa and thanks her for the jugs. They worked perfectly, but she shrugs it off as an easy job. Rust checks the jug, not a scratch. He asks Roa if she's struggling, certain their eye powers can stop any trouble. Roa says the capital's tense and prices are spiking. Russ is intrigued. Did something go down? Rust asks about Karina. Roa confirms she's informed, so Rust lets it go. Rust's got the ingredients. Stand back, he's installing the purification system for the conversion. A tornado swirls. Rust maxes the diamond dust hardness for an easy win. Now add the water. Pure water unleashes magic. Physics returns to the stream, and his zeroed entropy finally spikes. Dissolving magic stone powder into a bottle, Rust declares the diagram ink ready. Roa is still blown away. Rust thinks she's interested. His mission: defy gravity and solve the magic scheme. He tapped the book for water purification. Pages flew, and Rest ordered me to decipher the scheme. Russ fused the diagram into the vase with the magic solution, shouting that it was perfect. He slots in the magic crystal, and he's set. Smiling, he grabs another vase just as rusted as the rest. Roa celebrates the endless water, but Rest warns they're just getting started. Roa's stunned, but the guy explains it's just a water vessel. He's crafting a magic item, so they never have to carry water again. Roa begs him to do it. Rust is creeped out, but agrees, and she's hyped to watch. Russ signals the move. sensing no danger as Roa's man reaches the monster's old pond. Pet the beast and have it double-check. The hippo dives in as the guy crafts a magic water scooper from durable camp gear and installs it. Coated in catfish poison to ward off monsters, it also holds a rare magic stone. Behemoth lunges from the water with a monster fish. Rust smiles, thanking the hippopoe. Turns out this pond only has small fry. With the catfish gone, Russ is getting swarmed. The guy tunes his device. It's ready. Roa asks what it is. A rare monster stone. Rust agreed. He's hunting the beast and I'm off to the volcano. Roa asks what it is. Rust names it Paralyzing Cloud. The girl screams, it's a special danger rank. Physical attacks are useless. Rust confirms they'll get an alert if the pond dries by linking the task to a switch. Everything's ready. He flips the switch and a strange magical object instantly appears. Roa asks about the item. Rest calls his new untitled invention a cloud water dispenser. Rust drops the object, spawning clouds. Roa's shocked. She's vaporizing water, but the girl's temperature is spiking. Rust says it's too pricey, opting for a paralyzing cloudstone instead. Intrigued, Roa asks what it is. He explains the paralyzing cloud is a monster. Its magic crystal core rewrites physics, turning water into clouds that never fade. He looks like a normal monster, but his body is pure magic crystal. He warns that clouds are swarming the camp's pictures. He marks the jars as the target. When the clouds hit, the physics magic breaks and they turn back into water. Rust says actions beat words. Roa agrees, swinging her spear to clear the sky. Attack immunity is a massive perk. Monsters here wreck used pipes, and they're too weak to clear the whole line. Seeing her lost in the clouds, Russ approaches the hippopo and tells her they need to head back to camp ASAP. Alchemy has 3 techniques. First, life manipulation, peaking at beast transmutation. Second is magic element, control the key to making potion. Third, elements shape life, peaking with magic items. Mastering everything is an alchemist's path to enlightenment. Rust and Roa hit the camp to find their vases already full. The guy grins, mission complete. Ari finds Rasta and tells him Lady Karin is calling. Rasta agrees and heads over immediately. Rust enters Krin's tent. She hands him the scrolls, apologizing for the summons but insisting he look. He grabs the messages. He spots 2 parchments, one open, one sealed. Corinne smiles, impressed by his quick thinking. Normal alchemists waste days cleaning water, but Rust needs time for magic diagrams before the final test. He figured the open letter was Corinne. She'd already given him the green light, so he checked it out, having already settled the crystal trade with the Lord. Corinne was warned, but still shocked. The guy likes the conditions, but Corinne calls them incredible. Corinne yanks his collar, demanding his trick. Rust is stunned. She thinks he's faking it. Rust warns Karin she'll rip his clothes, so she lets go and apologizes. Fixing his gear, he realizes her insane strength could have easily torn his head off. Corinne notes it cost almost nothing. They must have messed up. Rust warns her a neighboring lord is coming with a magic crystal deal, but it's not what she expects. Russ assured Karin there were no tricks, reasoning that the vague offer likely meant old magic crystals. Shocked, she asked what he meant about H32. He can do it? Rust grinned, confirming that's exactly what he meant. Corinne clutches her head and gives him the green light. She realizes those people don't exist. Rust demands info on the H32 and magic weapon, but she denies everything, trusting her military subordinates to handle the rest. Rust expected this, but Corinne doesn't care. This hits the capital's interests head-on. It's a direct conflict. He grinned, confirming it. Corinne noted his lack of fear, then realized she'd spoken aloud. Rust laughed as she fixed her hair, awkwardly asking what he wanted her to do. Rust already asked Harold, and the answer's in this scroll. He tosses it to Corinne, who snags it. They're all mutual friends from their academy days. Karin grills Harold. He's from the treasury now, everything clicks. She scours his message, refusing to miss a single detail. Corinne says the capital's in trouble. Ari and Roa warned her, but she didn't think it was this bad. She grins at the opportunity, and Rust is ready to move fast. Just say the word. She slammed the scroll down. It's ready. Now we wait. I'll give you more than you can carry. Rest smiled and accepted. She beamed back, absolutely thrilled. This talk took Rust straight back to their school days. Morning hits the camp as Rust lounges on the behemoth's back, enjoying the fresh breeze. Rust thought the crystal trade started today. He waits at the camp gate for Ari and Roa. He insisted the warm sun made waiting less scary. Roa shouts, "They're here, get up." Rust leaps off the behemoth. Roa scans the distance, seeing nothing yet, but they're closing in. She tells Rust she saw them all. One SA beast. He leans in to check their guess. Rust leaves the talking to Corinne. He's clueless on the details. He grinned, seeing it all. Corinne called the talks a joke with their trump cards. But despite Rust knowing the deal, an insider's betrayal ruined everything. He turns Kagaro fruits into crystals for easy, unrestricted cash. Just report production shifts and get paid. It's a total goldmine. Men with mules approach. Rust gets it with no roads. Wheels are useless. Mules are the only way. He argues roads are the priority. Developing resource-poor regions demands a political and economic choice. Rust reveals his boss, Corinne, is behind it all. He sees the injured guests and panics. Roa confirms the obvious. They were attacked. Rust notes minimal damage. They fought back. A traveler unhoods, revealing Zar, the man Rust met on the road to Karin. He greets him. Zar rushes up, hyped to see Master Rust and ready for the deal. Rust smiles, telling him not to worry, they can talk like old times. Zaha apologizes for his inexperience. Rust is glad they're safe, but spots the wounded. He'll heal them if they ask. Zara screams, he's incredible. Rust heals everyone with his new universal elixir, promising it works. No fatal wounds, so Rust's weak potion would do. The crew was hurt, but the mules were safe. They'd just have to leave a few behind. Roa notes Rust looking ahead. He turns, spotting the Holy Knight, Taula. She beamed and greeted him. Rust was stunned. He never expected her to be with the delegation. She's here to talk. After hitching a ride with Toma's convoy, Zar admits she's already saved their skins. Rust smiled and agreed. The guy thought he'd just found two old friends. Zara shocks at the hippopoe. Rust welcomes Tala to the borderlands. A new story begins. Rest checks on Tala, who credits him for her safety. She thanks him for the forest rescue, but he insists he's the one who owes her for guarding the journey. Rust knows she's exhausted, so he tells her to finish the arrests and go grab some tea. Sensing she needed privacy, he invited Hala to her tent, and she gratefully accepted. Rust calls Roa, ordering her to bring Garrett fruit to the camp square. She accepts the mission. Tala enters Rasta's tent, stunned by the vine furniture. Rest laughs. "No thorns here, take a seat." Rust sets down 2 teas. He's got questions for Miss Tala. Tala cuts him off. He saved her life, so drop the formalities. She swears her sword to him, owning nothing but her god and her blade. He tells her to call him Rust. Tala drinks her hot tea, smiling in thanks. Tala caught the tea's rich scent and praised the aroma. Russ hoped rose tea and quality time would melt the ice. The girl pulls Ress aside to talk about the shaman. Rust asks if the shaman sent the familiar. She confirms. Talas's trail led her to the capital. That shaman destroyed her church, and his curse tracks her every move. Lifting the curse let her track him straight to his secret lair. Tearfully, Tala reveals he escaped. Tala hands him a magic diagram, claiming she found a massive stash of them nearby. Rest asks to see it, and the man quickly snaps on curse-purifying gloves. Rust eyes the girl's gift, fearing a curse, and asks Tala if she showed it to the Alchemical Association. She said no, she wanted to, but arrived to find a total wreck. Jagged holes riddle the walls. Tala smells a foul stench as the workers shuffle like the walking dead. Rust suspected a slime rampage. No way they'd leave him alone. The girl warned this thing was dangerous, so I let my crew handle it. Tala took it to a trusted expert, landing her right here. Rust called it a smart move. The girl shouted, hyped to know if it was true. Rust confirms it. This magic circuit turns mana into flames, and it's built for war. He's sure the Alchemical Association made this their signature. Transmutations are a dead giveaway. Tala adds, the cache is packed with magic weapons. She claims the alchemists and shamans are linked, and Rust agrees it's all too suspicious. Magic weapons shred monsters, overload them with magic, and they're dead. He says it's fine, even if you accidentally shoot someone. Magic cannons are weapons for amateurs. Rust warns her converting elements triggers conversion loss. Use this against monsters. He adds that this setup turns magic into fire. Tolla cuts him off. They just want to use him as a weapon, right? Rest confirmed it, but there's a catch. She asked what it was. He warned it might explode if used. Wrecking everything nearby wasn't the plan. It's a defect. Tyola asks if it's bad, and he confirms it's a disaster. Slime ate the circuit. Rust's old job is a wreck, and this sloppy management is infuriating. Tell says she made the right call coming. She's grateful, but Rest insists her intel was the real win. The girl needs to see Lady Corinne, so Russ agrees to take her. He wanted to introduce them anyway. Tulas praised the tea, thanked the transmutated beast, and left the roster 10 to get to work. Rust faces the fruit bags and grins. It's time to get back to work. Zar's crew arrives tomorrow. Turn those Kagero fruits into magic crystals. He's ditching the welcome party for a massive business deal he needs to wrap up right now. Rust grabs the berry. He won't waste this shot. It's go time, and he'll do whatever it takes to make it. Back to Tala, sitting before a massive feast. She thinks she's at a dinner party, sitting across from the local lord, Lady Corinne. Her top aides flank her at the delicious feast. As Corinne calls for Tala, Corinne welcomes the admiral to the Dominion's small world. Good deeds always return. She's stunned. A Rasta friend is guarding their work after such a hard journey. Corinne serves a special meal. Tala thanks her with closed eyes and takes a bite of meat. Tala thinks it's cow monster meat. It melts instantly, hitting her with a wave of fragrant herbal sauce. Flavors surge through her body as herbs and spices blend perfectly with savory meat juice. This meat's mana is top tier, definitely a high-ranked monster. Talit says the meat is high-grade magic and asks about the two-horned beast. Karen just grins, calling herself a gourmet. Corinne confirms it's a two-horn. The girl realizes the stakes from an adult female. Tala's stunned, two-horned females pack the most magic elements, explaining the massive power surging through her. Ari says Rust caught this, but Tala remembers it was Miss Ari. Ari claims his hunting skills rival his alchemy. Ari confirms Tala reels from the shock as the vibe shifts. The waitress drops their drinks, thanking them for the wait. Tala grabs a massive mug, expecting cold ale, and takes a sip. Bitter, cool hops perfectly wash away the rich juice of that two-horned meat. Slamming her mug, she praises the ale, shocked to find a brew this good in Ramoth. It warms her to the core. Typical for her territory, Tala notes they have advanced cooling tech. Corinne says Mr. Rust made them. He crafts cool gear in his spare time to upgrade the camp. Karina swears it was all for them. Tala sees it as self-defense and doesn't blame her. Corinne asks why Tolo was in Rosta's tent. Everything's clear now. She's protecting her friend, reclaiming the duty she lost after the attack. Tala notes her radiant look despite her dead comrades. The girl tells Karen she's hunting the shaman for revenge. Tala followed an alchemy clue straight to him, but Karen's skeptical why come to the borderlands when the capital is full of master alchemists. Tele says Rust is the most gifted person she knows and follows his lead. She distrusts the capital's alchemists, fearing they're tied to the shaman. Corinne beams, praising Rust's talent. Tala watches her glow with pride. She's absolutely radiant. Tala envies Corinne's friends, having lost her own. Corinne asks if the shaman's behind it, and Tala confirms it was him. She blamed the booze, but Talia says the moon was blinding. Before she knew it, she blurted out the names of her comrades the shaman killed. 2 guns ago at Turnagilt's Erila parish, Tala hears a voice calling her. Little Chia hugs her from behind. She hands Tala a gift doll. Tala asks how she paid, but Cheta just smiles. The girl loves the craftsmanship, leaving Tala suspicious. She knows Cheta can't sew. Pricking her fingers hurts, but she's making a dress to thank her for the doll. She understood she's sweet, and the doll's happy too. Cheetah asks if they're city-bound, and Tala confirms they need the usual supplies. The girl asks for a cute doll bow. Tala kneels, pets Cheetah, and reassures her. A girl hugs him from behind. She spots Forte and tells Tala she's going shopping, begging her to grab some mole bear cookies. Forte and Elle wait as Tala gives a thumbs up. Their church is deep in the woods, making every supply run a massive hike. It's her turn to shop. And she's rushing to get out early until Lady Sala Manning suddenly calls her name. Tala heads out to shop, but Sala tells her city first, then the forest as usual. She confirms they need herbs, and the city trip is the perfect chance. Sailor asks if it's all just for medical bills. She's got to train carefully. Getting injured alone would be a disaster. Tala Sala sees Lady Sala as a mother wise, compassionate, and loved by everyone. Scylla orders Goddess Aroila to watch her. Tala asks Karin if she knows Erasla's 3 faces. Karin confirms she does. Tuela adds wisdom and revenge. Gifted with power, she masters both paths at once, but her late-night training is cut short when the shaman strikes. Tala treks the woods, fearing she's late. Grinning, She reveals a kubo and rare ingredients, certain she'll be forgiven. Expecting Lady Sailor's usual fury, Tala spots a mysterious flash over the hill and bolts for the church. Tala froze in horror. The church was an inferno. She ditched her bag and charged inside. She stands over Cheetah and her dog, both sprawled on the ground. She hated pain, but now she's dead. Her doll lies like a rag as Towel watches the fire spread. The assembly hall was ground zero, locked from the outside. Through broken glass, silhouettes writhed in the fire like they were trapped in a tank. Tao's being screened for a helper. She tells Karen she's powerless. Dawn arrived, the fire died. She found Mother Superior Sala first. Her body was charred, but her smile remained. One touch, and the shaman's trap was sprung. The shaman defiled her body with a curse mark, weaponizing her death to hex everyone who loved her. Tala vows never to forgive the deaths, accusing him of playing with Lady Sail. Her cursed bruises mark Sailor's shame, and she's crushed by the guilt. She broke down, apologizing and claiming they deserved to live while she should die. Karen grabs Towler's hand, apologizing for making her relive those painful memories. Tala dries her eyes and tells Karen she has no choice. The curse is broken. She's finally growing up. She'll point her blade at him after her revenge. Corinne says they're waiting. Tala breaks down, thanking Karen for everything. Just like Rust, she's finally calling her by name. Rust is hitting his limit. He's been transmuting crystals for hours and is dying for a drink. Ari asks what she's got. The girl sets down a tray of food and drinks, offering him a break. Surprised, Rust thanked her. He was parched, but after a job well done, he grabbed the tray and started devouring his meal. Ari offers to grab him a chair from their nearby tents. Ari grabs chairs from the tent. Rasta apologizes for the trouble, but she brushes it off. Ready to start, Rust slams back his ale. After hours of talking, the ale was the perfect recharge for his parched throat. Ari met Linda Bruder for the welcome banquet. She says he's proud of his work, chasing perfection through trial and error since he moved here. Rust loved the ale. That scent is incredible. He must have used plant monster ingredients. He demanded to handle food and drinks. Ari recalls his hype for the barley monster. He even hunted it down. Rust recognizes the two-horn steak. He's eaten it before, but never one this fatty. He loves the camp food. Same ingredients, but fresh recipes keep it from getting old. Ari says it S because eating is their only joy here. She whispered, asking to speak with Mr. Rust. He sets the spoon down and asks what she has to say. Ari noticed their powers, but Rust knew since the ambush outside camp. Rust realizes Roa's vision is insane. She can gauge the strength of monsters and humans from miles away. Ari's almost right. Roa sees far and gauges strength, but her future sight is limited. Rust gets it. This power is insane. Magic eyes are rare, but Roa's see the future a gift he thought was just a legend. Ari's foresight is weak. He only triggers a few seconds of future sight during combat, proving his power is limited. Russ shouts his denial. He's a beast. He demands to know how she knows his style, but she stays silent. Even behind the cloth, he could feel her smile. Rust quickly changed the subject, focused only on her absolute certainty. He revealed she'd told him everything about her magic eyes, especially how to trigger them. Ari chose based on his actions. Family is her secret, but it's also the people risking their lives to build this land. He's helped them so much. She trusts him with the whole truth. Rest nods, telling her to keep going. She touches the mask to explain, but sensing the mana, he realizes it's actually a magical seal. Ari nods, he knows everything. These are legendary magic items, only 2 exist in the world. She claims Rust identifies items at a glance. He plays it down, but his guesses are dead on. Rust asks to fix them, but Ari refuses. She says these items keep their magic in check, but Ari warns they're losing their power. Rust's stunned. No repairs means their power is still skyrocketing. He's designing 2 new magic items, but they'll take time. Ari's hyped, asking if he's for real. She kneels before Rust, shouting her thanks and vowing to repay him, but he waves her off and tells her to stand. Rust asks if she remembers her words. Ari's shocked she spoke, but Rust confirms she called them family, risking their lives to build the land. Smiling, he calls her and Roa family, vowing to help however he can. Meal over, back to work. Russ inspects him and Roa tomorrow. Ari happily confirms it's tomorrow and bows. He decides it's time to get back to magic crystals. Morning hits Zia's shocked. He finished the crystals overnight. While Rust awkwardly asks how they'll carry the massive haul, Zaz was stunned. He barked at his men to harness the mules, shouting that they were moving out right now. Zara plays it off as nothing, but the village head calls Russ a master alchemist who shattered every expectation. The man grins and proposes summoning a VIP, but a stunned Rust insists it's a waste of time. Zara ignores him, landing Rust and Karina in a tent with Mammals, a Dabbleton Dominion official who's thrilled to meet them. Rust was stunned. He closed the deal and Mammal was floored. Neither expected a mountain of Kagaro fruits to turn into magic crystals overnight. Mammals say it's finally time to talk rewards. Russ figured the headman recommended him to the Lord, promising an overnight finish to get the payment ready early. Rust spots Memble's writing with a magic quill, an elemental artifact that makes documents impossible to forge or rewrite. Russ eyes the seal the mammal servant brought. He figured the seal was another magic artifact. He scanned the letter and Rust smirked. The payout was over, double the research department's entire yearly budget. Corinne's impressed there even. She hands over the docs and orders her assistant to pay Rust his share. She stands and declares a new alchemy research department under her direct command, naming Rust as chief. Surprised, the man knelt in a formal pledge. Rust was used to Karin's antics, but now he had to show his gratitude. Admiral Corinne makes it official. Magic crystal profits fund the department, minus Rust's cut. The scribe was stunned. Rest knew a new department was a nightmare and prayed for the man facing that mountain of paperwork. Corinne smiles, ready to talk. The crystals and gear are moving to the drop point. Mammals will handle the rest and put those resources to work. Rust let Corinne handle the planning. Since it was easier, Corinne ended the talk, but ordered Rust to stay put. Rust expects a talk about the new department, but Tala approaches with a smile to congratulate him on his new position. Rust stammered, completely blindsided and unsure how to even process it. She'd love to see him in action, but she's busy using his shaman intel. Tula smiled and headed out, hoping he'd be okay. He watches the Taoist leave, insisting he's fine and hoping she finally makes the shaman pay. Rust turns back to Karin as she points out his new duties, demanding absolute perfection. Rust accepts, realizing his work won't change much. He's thrilled he can keep his research going while on duty. Karin demands a full expense report, but Rust remembers her saying he could spend however he wanted within reason. Corinne stops in her tracks, revealing her true ambition. She's going to recruit more staff and transform this tiny department into a massive independent organization. She tells Rasta to consider the name, and he dwells on her words. Corinne exits Rust Eyes the Gear, hating the name he can risk any ties to the Alchemical Association. Rust insisted the group is state-controlled. Should he drop the name, tied to the Admiral's dominion? Realizing he couldn't force a plan, Rust grabbed the scroll and focused on the task at hand. No need to rush. Two shadows loom outside Rostas' tent. It's Ree and Roa, asking the master for entry. The girls enter. The guy apologizes for the interruption, wanting to examine them based on Ari's claims. Ari bows in gratitude. They know he's busy. Rust remembers Roa scouting the tent before, likely using her magic eye to see through the rows. Russ orders Rosa to summon chairs for Ari and Roa, forcing the girls into their seats instantly. Rust sits and gives the signal. He's analyzing the mana flow in their eyes and the tissue suppressing it. Ari understood, and Roa was cool with it. Rust layers the scrolls to seal the room and starts researching their magic tissues. The girls trade looks as Roa asks who's going first. Rust smiled, sensing their terror. He understood, but it's a suicide mission. They'd have to ditch the magical masks they never take off. They'll start with Roa, he is worried. Aureus magic. Eyes will strain her body, but she says she is fine. Roa said they trusted him with their lives. Rust smiles and hands Roa a scroll, telling her to wrap it over her eyes. Ari scanned the scroll, told her sister she was starting, and bound her eyes with the paper. Ari signals they're ready. Russ nods and begins, touching the girl to magically extract her memories. Russ lets go. Everything's ready. He asks Roa how she feels, but she panics. She sees absolutely nothing. The scroll works. Rust fixes her hair and tells Ari to take the artifact. It is safe. Ari takes charge and unmasks her sister, leaving Rust and Ari stunned to see her face for the first time. Roa breaks down, telling Ari it's all too weird to watch. Rust is stunned. failing to understand her emotions. Ari rushes to hug her sister, stroking her head as Roa buries her face in her stomach. Feeling strange, Ari promises everything's okay. Rust grinned, deciding to inspect the Roa artifact immediately. He asks Rose for a magic tester. She hands it over with her branches. He thanks her, grabs the device, and hits his desk to start prepping. He thought the magic element tester scanned artifacts with weak waves, mimicking human energy to track elemental flow. The stone is blank. He touches the bandage, realizing the magic is woven into the fabric at the bridge of Roa's nose, the standard power source for face artifacts. He holds the pendulum to the mask. Rust realizes he's dowsing for magic sweat to help his disease research. The pendulum stops at the bridge of the nose. Rust sees it's simple: an energy store, an amplifier, and a noise canceller. Rust froze, questioning its purpose. There were endless ways to rebuild. He argued the build was complex and the burning magic stream worked. Rust inspected the fabric again. He eyes the symbol: pure amateur work. By merging his magic streams, he could craft something way better instantly. Rust touches the mask, certain someone who loves Ari and Roa made these, but what will this knowledge cost them? Rust watches Ari cradle Rose's head, comforting her as the sisters talk quietly inside the tent. Roa's finally calm, and Rust gets it. The girl's mental state is the real key. He claims the artifact's mental boost is stronger than its actual power. Rust agrees, hands Roa a cloth to start the exam, and glances at Ari. He ordered her to return the artifact to Roa. Rust's shout shattered the seal, magic erupting as the girl glowed and her hair rose. Rust stashes the scroll and demands Roa's hand. She reaches out, terrified of what he'll do next. He raises his hand, triggering the joint protocol. RAST governs the transfer for the ROWA. The control key is a sealing scroll now. Finish the protocol. Roa grips the scroll, doubting she needs Rust. He just grins. He has plenty more, so she can keep it. He insisted he'd taught her how to use them, even for resting. Rose looked up, then snapped her head down. Rust sensed trouble. Roa was clearly upset, but trembling with emotion, she whispered her thanks. Roa whispers, but Rust hears every word. Ari smiles behind her mask and steps in to calm her sister. The girls are ecstatic. Roa weeps in shock, and Rust smiles, soaking in their joy. Rust inspects two masks. They look like plain white cloth, showing no hint of magic. Done with Ari, Roa, and their masks, he starts crafting new artifacts. Rust's desk was piled with solutions for Ari and Roa. He wanted to help his exhausted girlfriends, but hesitated to hand over the books. He claimed they were superior, but sensed the creator was tied to Ari and Roa. Is the risk worth the reward? New artifacts mean ditching the old ones. He weighs their unique powers. They're rare and mysterious, but your mindset likely dictates your control. Rust claims mastering mana control would evolve their gear, making these new, simpler masks far superior. He knows it's tough. He can build a device to measure control and compare artifacts. Twirling his pen, Rust grips his head and locks in. He rants that his research hit a wall thanks to old enemies stalking him, bizarre assignments, and a non-existent budget. Russ has the cash and a new plan. He eyes the masks. He needs a new plan. Forget boosting indicators and automate them into short, toggled bursts. He grabs a paper and starts sketching. Unfold the form, add a piece, and it's perfect. Rust ground through the night to finish the drawing fast. Ari and Roa hit Russ's tent. He thanks them for waiting and reveals their new artifacts. The girls rush the table, hyped. Simple glasses and a monocle, classic eyewear, designed to stay low-key. The girls twisted the strange objects as Ari questioned how to use them. Rust tells her to separate the metal frames. She obeys, he gives the okay, and now she has to put them on. Ari asks if she succeeded. He smiles. It's perfect. Now the girls can finally ditch the veils and walk without bandages. Roa slips on the MC's custom glasses and gasps in shock. Ari followed Ro's lead, smiling and cheering softly while tucking her hair back. They lock eyes. Roa cheers for Ari's cool look, and Ari smiles, loving the fresh vibe. Rust loves the look, satisfied with the result. Ari's still adjusting, but she's totally obsessed. At the pond, Rust explains the Rua gear, while the girl starts spearing water monsters. Rust watched the girl, checking for defects. She told him she felt better than perfect and was completely satisfied. Roa taps her glasses, making him think she's triggering sealing mode. She instantly snags a rough-scaled armored salmon, a delicacy famous for its caviar, and begins testing her new artifact too. Armored salmon swarm upstream after a hippo kills the catfish. Boss Rust warns their scales are impenetrable, but Corinne's just aiming for the gaps. Rust steps aside, eyeing them for case materials, as Roa suddenly rushes him. She says the artifact is fine, but Rust presses for issues. Does it slip in combat? Is switching modes clunky? He needs the truth. Roa says no, but a tired Ari tells her to stop being rude and show Rust respect for helping them. Roa looked down, claiming she's mastered her magic eyes. Now she sees the world with absolute clarity. Rust listens close as Roa explains her seamless switch between transparency and long-range vision. She says voice commands are easy, but manual feels better. Rust agrees. In a real fight, physical control is just superior. Ro uses her left hand for everything to keep her spear hand ready. Rust reaches out, understanding perfectly. Give me the artifact, I'll fix it. He unrolls the scroll and triggers the magic census, shifting every function from right to left. Rust hands over the glasses. Everything's ready. Roa gears up and dives back into the pond to slay more monsters. Ari smiles, calling Roa happy, then grabs her monocle and lunges her spear, apologizing to Rust for the trouble. A salmon leaps from the pond, impaling itself on Ari's spear. Rust is stunned. Did the armored fish target the weapon on purpose? Rust objects Ari used her future-seeing eye to predict the strike, and she just grins. Rust notes the sisterly resemblance and her joy, but Ari catches his stare and scowls. Her magic eye isn't just for combat. She saw his words before he even spoke. Ari shuts him down, leaving a shocked Rust wondering if she's actually reading his mind. She smiles, admitting he's right as her expression turns sweet. At the massive association building, Lee Heilsum fumes at the head, refusing to return the roster no matter what. Le Heilsum's fuming. He just ditched that pest, but he's already back. Peace is over. The boss slams the table, forcing him to face the Parliament sends daily reports with the same excuses. Bad materials ruin transmutations, supply delays kill deadlines, and customers are demanding massive payouts. Spinning around, the boss complains he's taking the heat for every branch leader. They demand he honor their deal, but despite their constant screaming, he stays idle. He asks a stunned Lee Halsum if he remembers his claim that nothing would change without Master Rost. So how does he explain this disaster? Lahel slammed his head on the table, screaming he couldn't replace Rust and was destroying the association. He points to gaping holes and a lingering slime stench. The association S-walls are patched with cheap wood, but the boards only make the damage more obvious. Sam hung his head in shame, mumbling as he struggled for words. He still refused to return the raster, fist clenching in rage. He didn't mention sales hit record highs after he left. When a subordinate brought up the new magic crystals, the boss snapped. He already knew. He's filling the Rostumaster's void fail, and he'll be forced to beg the master to return. Lee Haller suppresses his rage, telling the boss he understands, but he blames Rust for everything and vows never to forgive him. Lahail storms into weapons alchemy to find the hall in ruins. As the boss rants that the damage is trashing their reputation, the staff sensed his foul mood and played dumb, getting back to work like nothing happened. Lael sits at his ancient, worn-out desk. A few books can hide the truth. The whole place looks flimsy and abandoned. Sabas bursts in, yelling to Master Lahalsum that they're in deep trouble, but Lahalsum just stares back, asking what the rush is. The guy complains the new magic crystals were returned, leaving Lee Hilsum in total shock. He screams it's a mistake, but Sabaz points to the boxes, telling Master Lahilsam to see for himself. He stared in shock at a mountain of returned wedding boxes, all contaminated with foul mucus. The massive pile meant a total disaster. Laholsum yells at Sabas about their payment, but Sabas claims he's totally clueless. He barks at his staff to call the wholesalers as a nervous Tortake nears the Hilson. He demanded answers, but a terrified Tortake swore nothing happened today. He asks what to do with the mess, knowing they can just toss it. Lee Heilsum snaps, kidding, reminding them this is the association's main income, and Lahalsam orders them to the vault, dump the old junk, pack the new loot, and he'll find where these crystals belong. An employee asks for orders, but there's no choice. They're heading to the nearest storage facility. She questions tossing old gear, he confirms it, and these warehouses are officially weapons alchemy territory. They enter a room of packed cabinets to clear space, but the filthy mess feels suspiciously intentional. Skinny asks to trash the crates. She scans the shelves and points to a drawer. She asks what's inside. They don't know. The inscription was erased. She grabs it with a grin, calling it junk from the broke elementary research department. If it actually mattered, it wouldn't be covered in dust. She hits the next drawer, asking curiously what's inside. Skinny pulls a bottle from the drawer. The girl shakes it. It's totally clear. Tortake's pendulum senses magic in the water. But since it's clear, he calls it a defective potion. Skinny laughs at their useless junk, mocking how desperate they were, while the girl asks to trash it all. An employee asks to consult Master Lahel Simph, but he shuts it down with a weary no. He pictured the Lee highly screaming, "They're helpless without a pointer." The guy claimed he'd just go broke again, so Tortake ordered Keeney to dump it all in. They clear the boxes and haul in magic crystals. The grind is far from over. Skinny shuts the lid for now, promising to handle it later. A warning on the back reads, "Concentrated magic, handle with extreme care." Rust relied on this solution for early research. Skinny yells, she'll haul the box to the river with a transmuted beast. She pours the solution into the river. Magic won't hurt humans, so they re-safe, but there's a catch. No visible damage means Cake's mistake stays hidden until it's too late. That fish is splashing now, but it's about to find a new home. The crew hits the Alchemist S Association comms room, a chamber packed with magical gear. Sabas grabs the report, stunned. He can't believe he's reading this now. It's a total disaster. Lahel storms in demanding answers, but Sabasa's terrified look only fuels his rage. Lee Hausen barks for the report, snatching the paper from Sabas's hands. He can't wait another second to see what's inside. He grabbed the paper and scanned the text, his face twisting in terror. He looked to Sabas, whose nod confirmed the report was 100 true. Lehi's stunned old-school magic crystals are flooding the market, but that's impossible. He screamed in disbelief, refusing to accept the written truth. Imports are blocked. It's all contraband, but there's way too much. Are they making it here? No, that's impossible. Lahel screams that any official alchemist would be fired for this trash, shouting that no unlicensed amateur should have this much skill. Lee Hale froze, thinking Rust had quit the association. Fighting back tears, he realizes it's Rust and hangs his head. Sabas warns his master the new crystals keep getting returned, leaving them buried in unsold stock. Heads turned as screams erupted. Someone hissed about the mess. Lee Hill barked for a sale update, and Sabas shouted they were finally recovering. They re-deep in the red, he gasps, staring at Sabbath in horror. Lee Hilsom's in shock. They're in the red. He screams in denial, refusing to believe it's possible. He hated swallowing his pride to beg them back, and Lehel screamed he'd never do it. He seethes at the thought of begging Rust for help. Suddenly, a man enters, calling for Master Lee Helsom. He turned as a messenger warned him the boss was calling, and he was livid. Lehiggelson cleared his throat. Terrified, he begged Sabis to act, but the shocked worker just sighed. He was an ordinary guy and completely powerless. Lahaisam screamed to the association he's in deep trouble and has no plan. Lee repeats Ross's name dozens of times, making the guy sneeze from his non-stop obsession. Lahilsam and his crew trek through the clearing into the forest under the blistering heat. They ate with their feet. He couldn't believe it, but an order's an order. Lee remembers the boss barking a wild order, return the roster in person. Stunned, Lee stared back, unable to believe his ears. The leader took full responsibility. Lil clenched his fists, but stayed silent. Now in the forest, Lehigh fumed about paying for these useless guards himself. They're incompetent weaklings, but they're better than nothing. A man shouts to Lee Hal, who snaps back. The guy questions their route, fearing the dangers of the dense forest. Legel gave a shaky nod, then barked at his crew to stop overthinking and focus on the mission. He arms them for protection, explaining his custom weapons use magic cycles to swap elements. Grinning, the thugs agree to Hiles's orders, shoot Rust in the back and serve him up crispy. Lee Hausam lays out the plan, lure him out, kill him, and feed his corpse to the monsters. He's loaded and crafting ancient magic crystals. The brothers share a predatory grin. Heilson offers an equal split to keep them quiet. The guy assures Lee Hal so he can count on the brothers. They mock the nerdy weakling threat, and Lee follows to avoid being stranded in the forest. He curses his team while roasting in the heat, blaming Rust for dumping him in this monster-infested wasteland. Recalling the boss' words, He screams that the president is a disgusting face-saver, ordering a funding hike to make the guy crawl back in tears. A small monster appears, snarling at Lehelsam. He leaps back in terror, screaming for Diden to save him. Someone asks Lahail what happened. He spots a monster below, but the guy shrugs it off as a harmless weakling. Eden yells for the brothers to handle it. One pulls a gun, taking charge. He stepped up and easily gunned down the small monster. He laughs, telling Dayden it's too easy. Dayden smirks with these. No one can touch them. Monsters swarm from the rocks. Eden grins, claiming the next kill, but they kinda forget these beasts hunt by sound. Deeden yells to look ahead as monsters crawl forward, begging to be shot. He expected a small group, but the brothers panic at the massive swarm. Deedrin orders rapid fire, but Leehouse screams to stop. They need to swap magic circuits. Switching elements is draining too much mana. Dayden watched in horror as they kept climbing. He fired wildly, but missed. Suddenly, a misfire. Why now? Monsters swarm, panic sets in, and the men finally strike. Rust warned the new types misfire, but as the horde grows, Deeden screams for his brothers to finally open fire. One brother knows everything. He tried escaping, but failed. Now he's screaming the magics run dry. They scream at Lahail. They're out of crystals and a gun is busted. He needs to fire spares from the magic cannon now. Lyle snaps he's out of crystals, shocking the crew. They can believe Master Lee didn't take them. They check their guns and bolt from the monsters. Lehigelsam roars, "Stop! Where are you going?" Monsters swarm his feet. Lehelsam roars, taking them on alone. He snaps the scroll open and roars for activation, light erupting around him. Space links them, fusing the path into his flesh. Parasitic beast. Number 1 is a destroyer. Lehiliusam winces as his hand melts into slime, sprouting dozens of mushrooms. He roared that these insects were about to feel his pure fury. 30 years ago, Lehialson was handsome but gloomy. Back then, Lahail Sam's beasts were parasitic fungi fused to his flesh, a horrific but necessary way to attack. Lehi hated fighting, so he used spore-spraying parasitic fungi to kill monsters. Monsters collapse as lethal mushrooms sprout from their skin, paralyzing them and rotting their bodies from within. Lahausam eyes the fungus choked clearing as monsters swarm, replacing their dead in endless waves. The man strikes, ordering the kill as Lehielson shreds monsters, roaring that they'll all die one by one. A monster sneaks up behind Lahelsam. He tries to stomp another beast, but it bites his thigh, making him clutch his hip and scream in agony. The beast latched onto his leg, refusing to let go. Horrified by the bite, the man frantically thrashed his foot to break free. Lyle Sam slams the monster off the man's hip, dead on impact. Lehilsam stared at the shredded clothes, exposing a brutal wound. The monster's strike left the man in agony, strangely hoping a potion would save him. Lehilsam delivers the final strike and scans for stragglers. It's over. The monsters are wiped out. He groaned in agony as his hand morphed back to human. He roared in rage, blaming Rasta for everything. But in the empty forest, no one heard him. Lee Housam downs a potion. Exhausted from battle, he's ready for the rust. And despite the association's recall, he's still going for the kill. He stepped and screamed, but Lehi knew he had to push through. Trudging forward, he roared that Rust would pay for every agonizing step. Rust smiles at the behemoth. It's time to move. Today's mission is a true alchemist's duty. Regional development, tents loom in the distance. Magic-soaked soil kills grain, so he purges the mana into the atmosphere to prep the land for the farmers. Rust digs a hole. He needs to carve more into this cleared kidney, making sure each one fits his hands perfectly. He shrugged off the hard ground. The behemoth nudged Rust, and he stared back. He offers a switch, so Rust asks what's worth digging. The hippo grunts and digs fast, earning a joyful cheer from the guy. Behemoth dug until Rust called it grateful to Hyperpopo. The beast watched his master, eager for the next move. Rust pulls out a mutated onion, ready to bury it and drain the soil as elements. He drops an onion in the pit. The beast whimpers. Rust laughs and pets him. It's too hard for a hippo, but he thanks his buddy anyway. Rest unfurls the scroll with a smirk, no leaks allowed. He triggers the activation, drawing in mana as a magic sigil ignites. Magic signs flared over every bulb pit. Rust cheered. Everything was going perfectly. He touches the glowing scroll. Rust says it's fine. Now he just needs to overload the elements as his bracelet slips off. He stares as Roa hands over the bracelet post-test. The girl credits the artifact and promises him a charm from her village. Rust asks if she wove it herself. Roa blushes and nods. She said to cut it if necessary. Rest stared at the bracelet. Grateful Roa made it, but wondered what kind of amulet can just be cut off. He leaned against the behemoth and raised his bracelet, reading his predecessor's papers to kill time while it charged. Rust pulls out a scroll, a study comparing magic levels in the soil and millet. He copied every research record into this scroll, knowing Lee Hillison would trash the originals, and Rust says there's something massive hidden inside. He thinks magic soil tricks the brain into tasting better food, but Russ insists her taste won't change. This study tracks magic's toll on the body. The behemoth mumbles in his own tongue. It's time. Surprised, he thanks the beast for the heads up. Rust locks onto the behemoth with perfect focus until Ari rushes over, shouting that someone is looking for him. The girls excitedly warn him, this guy is bad news, he better watch out. He's shocked. The guy is so weak. He asks for his name, and a winded Ari confirms she knows it. She calls him Lee Hilsum, and he flashes a murderous grin. Lehi's here. Russ is glad Ari got his name, but as they drive, he grills her for details. He's got a bad feeling. Rust reached for Ari. Surprised, she took his hand. He gripped her tight, demanding to help. Rest hauls Ari onto the behemoth to reach camp faster. He tells her to hold tight, and a blushing Ari clings to him as the beast charges ahead. The beast storms into camp as Ari clings to Rust. Despite the wasteland, the ride is fast and smooth. The behemoth is clearly steadying its pace just for them. Oro meets an old Alchemist Association colleague, a chronic troublemaker who's never satisfied. Rust's here for the magic crystals. He knew this was coming, but not this fast. Array listened, her face clouding with unspoken worry. Noticing her distress, Rust smiled and asked what was eating at her. She wasn't sure, but a brutal battle is coming, and it won't be easy. Ari senses an all-out war. Visions flash in her mind as they press on. Snuggling Rust, she says his artifact works perfectly. Without him, she couldn't even see the fight. Ari cuts Rust off mid-sentence. He's nervous, but the artifact is stable and everything's clear. He demands to know if Ari and Lee Hale are fixing a fight. Ari sadly confirms it, fearing the worst. Rust senses there's more, but a shaken Ari admits she's never felt this before and it's terrifying. She apologizes, but Rust smiles, saying there's no need. He's just grateful for the info. Ari snaps her head up and screams. Russ freezes in shock as she stares right through him. It's terrifying. She whispers, the turning point is close. She's here. The roster master's choice could change everything. Better or worse, some choose Rust. Ari whispers that both paths are equally destined. Ari's eyes sparkle. Lost in a stunning vision, fate's code reassembles as the wasteland song rides the wind. She spots two figures, then the shaman's hand. Rust's monocle glitches as he spots magic in Ari's eyes, leaving him staring at her in total shock. Processing's maxed out, but the monocle is fully synced with Ari's magic eye. He insists she can see the future, but just how far ahead? Ari recoiled, unable to stomach the vision right in her face. She falls back, but Rust catches her. He stares in terror, clueless about what just happened. Rust screams for Ari to hold on, but she's out cold, lost in a dream for minutes. The girl wakes up, thanking Rostra and insisting she's okay. Rostra's stunned. The future vision has finally stopped. Ari's magic eye overloads her body, knocking her out. He reassures her everything's fine. Rust vows to protect everyone, no matter what fate throws his way. Rust awkwardly calls them family. Surprised, Ari pulls him into a tight hug and blushes, whispering he's right. He blushes awkwardly as Rust tells Ari to hold on tight. They're hitting full speed. Roa rushes over, shouting they have to move. Rust brushes it off, helps Ari down, and tells her to rest, but Ari refuses, insisting she's coming along to back him up. Ari wants to see for herself. Rust smiles, and they head off to lay Halesome. Roa warns Rust to be careful, sensing a dark evil within him. Shocked by her insight, Russ agrees to stay on guard. Karen the Heavy Knight faces Lahelsem. Her meteorite armor isn't for defense. It adds massive weight to every strike. Karen smiles, glad he finally arrived, and Rust grins back, apologizing for the wait. His expression shifts, glaring back at the Halesome as they face off. Lee Hyal Sum is livid. Rust confirms he's a master rank. a lethal counter to Karen's direct fighting style. Rust shields Corinne, leaving her stunned. He shielded her with his back, telling her to leave it all to him. Lee Howsam forces a smile, finally finding Master Rust after a long search. Rust demands to know why he's here and what that stench is. Lee delivers the news. The Alchemist Association is reopening basic research, and the president wants Rust back. Rust was honored by the news. The man reached out his hand, inviting him to join. Shocked, Rust denies it. He's never done this, and he's never coming back. Lahelsam stared at Rushtha in total shock, eyes wide with disbelief. Rust left on his own terms. The basic research department's collapse started it all, but that's where his science truly evolved. He told him to leave if he was done. Corinne nodded, satisfied. The girls watched Lee closely as the man began to giggle. Rust stared. The man threw his head back, howling hysterically. Corinne, Roa, and Ari draw their weapons, ready for a fight. Lee Hyle-sim just grins. No choice left. The man decides to destroy everything, suddenly lunging at Rust and the girls as they watch in shock. He roared to activate, and Ari, Roa, and Corinne backed off. Scrolls shield the group as Rust yells that masters can fight to the death. Ari should be warned him, but Lahelsam suddenly snaps. Realizing the stakes, he screams that Lahalson will lose his license at best. But Rust is absolutely livid. Lihikel Sam's hand melts into toxic mushroom goo as he snaps, roaring that no one leaves alive. Arguments flood in, sprouting into mushrooms the second they hit the ground. Rust covers his nose, realizing these spores are lethal. He blocks Ari and Roa, shouting that these are slime mold beasts. Stay back and don't breathe them in. Mushrooms sprout instantly, clawing out of the ground with their own hands. Roa's stunned, the mushrooms grew limbs. Rust stared at the mutated beasts in shock. Weak alone, but they have the numbers, and knowing Lee Helsam, they're definitely poisoned. He had to end them all in one shot. He thrust his hands out. Scrolls manifest, blocking the mushrooms. He apologizes, but they've got to go. A cyclone swirls on Rust's arm. He shouts to start the grind, targeting Lahalesam's poisonous mushrooms. Roa asks if this is the same way he makes magic crystals. Rust roars, unleashing a full power strike on the grinding scroll. Glaring at the pests, he roars to release his limits. Rust pours his full power into a tornado, slamming the monsters. The Rust tornado shreds the mushrooms, but they keep pushing toward him. Rust had to dice these unknown beasts fast. He kept the tornado roaring. Corinne, Roa, and Ari watch Rust struggle. They know he's unbeatable, but they're still worried. Mushrooms scatter and collide in a panic. They can to dodge Rosta's strikes, and some just stand there to accept their fate. Rust taps a magic seal to eject them from camp as a sudden gust blasts Lehigh Hosm with slime. Ari explains the tornado scattered the mushrooms everywhere, and his sister laughs, calling it a mushroom smoothie. Sand, slime, and mushroom porridge. Pelt la hell, he sinks into the liquid until the goo swallows his face. Rust was impressed he'd smashed every mushroom. He cut the tornadoes to survey the wreckage. He screams in shock at what emerges from his attack. Lehigh Lysam is buried in a strange substance, leaving Rust staring at a single eye and a few fingers. Corinne smirks at Rust's usual cruelty, while the sisters scream, "It happened too fast. Rust is impossibly strong," and they can't believe their eyes. Rust soaked up the girls' praise, proud of his monster kills, but as he rolled his scroll, he cringed, wishing he could just disappear. Lihikuzum chokes on sand, digging himself out like a living sandman before letting out a furious roar. Lee Helson cryptically fumes over his missing mushrooms, blaming Rust for the theft. He looks so filthy, you'd never guess he's an alchemist. Russ watches his ex-colleague in disgust. Corinne is totally lost, but the masked sisters are clearly intrigued. Lahael Sam rips his hand from the muck and summons a double-sealed scroll. It's black smoke signaling pure evil. Rust watched Lahalsem, panicking. It was a declaration scroll. He taps the seal. A massive mushroom sprouts and thick smoke blankets the entire battlefield. Rust doubts it's a smokescreen. The guy claims it's heavy gas hugging the ground, but what is it really and how will it act? Rust stared at the empty spot. The smoke cleared, revealing Lee bolting away. Rust muttered in disbelief. He actually ran. Curran questioned why he even showed up. Roa screamed to give chase. He screams for her to stop, it's poison. Rust summons the scroll, shouting to release its limits. Despite the weirdness, Lahelsam is still a master alchemist, capable of something terrifying. He touches the seal and chants, starting the purification. Magic seals trap the toxic mushroom and its smoke in a dome. Ari senses a distortion, but Rust explains it's for gas separation. Don to get too close. Rust eyes the mushroom, noting it takes insane focus. He separates the gases into spheres, betting one holds pure oxygen. Rust yells to activate, planning his next move. He triggers the projection, knowing it needs sunlight to warm up. A lens focuses sunlight on the mushroom. High oxygen plus heat triggers a massive thermal surge, and it ignites instantly. Roa accidentally inhales the strange scent, so the guy traps the toxic purple gas in a cleansing jar. He rolls the scroll and shouts everything's ready. Roa spots Lee Hilsum straight ahead. Rust tells Karin he's giving chase, trusting Roa's vision, but Ari screams for him to look back. Rust looks up in shock. Black dots are closing in fast. Roa uses her power to close in and ID the creatures. Giant flying fish monsters emerge. The girl screams. It's an armored salmon with wings. These evolved beasts attack, and a stunned Rust wonders why now. Rust, panicked, chase Lee Hoyle, Sam or stay and defend the camp. Karin spots Heavenly Salmon and sends Ari and Roa ahead, staying back to gauge the threat, command the troops and lead the evacuation. Survival is everything. Karin shuts her eyes, silently weighing her next move. Corinne shouts that Rust will hunt Lehalasum, trusting his every choice. Rust stares back, stunned. Stunned by Corinne's order, Rust hesitates as his instincts scream at him to chase Lehilsam. He insists this is Ari's turning point. Now he must choose hunt Lahale or stay to defend the camp. Rust knew Corinne's team was weak against flyers. As the Heavenly Salmon swarmed, he tightened his grip. Rust braced for an aerial swarm. Their scales are ironclad without alchemy or magic. It's a defensive bloodbath. He clenched his fist. Rust balled his fists, demanding the victims be freed. There's only one reason master alchemists are banned from fighting each other. Going all out means massive destruction. This rule doesn't protect alchemists. It saves the innocent. If he goes all out, the threat level skyrockets. Lord Kaelin's duty is her camp, but she leaves the choice to Russ, and he's all in. Rust vows to defend the camp. Corinne locks eyes with him, and in that moment, he finally understands. If chasing Lehel Sim costs lives, she'll shoulder the guilt alone. As leader, Rust knows she'll bury the pain. He smiles, telling Karin they'll handle Lee Hale later. He's definitely coming back. Corinne grins. It's perfect. The Rustmaster preps to destroy the Heavenly Salmon, roaring his agreement. Rust smiled, ready to destroy for her sake. He wouldn't let her down. Suddenly, she rushed in, screaming for him to stop. He hunts Lee Salesome. The girl grabs her eye in a panic, shocking. Rest, while Karin barks at Ari to shut up. She's the sole commander. Duty calls. Ari bows. She obeys Madame and moves out. Rust watches her go, feeling nothing but regret. He chose to believe in her future. At his old job, he was a total zombie, staring at the ceiling for hours without even noticing. Russ finally had a choice. His future was his, and for once he felt hope. He watched Ari for a second, then bolted to the battlefield. He ran to protect the irreplaceable. He'll never forget what Quran, the girls, and the camp gave him. Heavenly Salmon swarm the camp. Rust stops, eyeing Stoya, realizing they've split half for the camp, the rest likely for the capital. He admitted it seemed good, but why head to the capital? Russ watches Ari and Roa try to spear a salmon. He charges in screaming, but the girls tell Master Rust to stay back. They can fight and they've got this. Rust stops, surprised, then grins. He shouts one question: where are the others? The girls reveal they were in the food storage. Russ agrees. With sky attacks incoming, underground storage is the perfect play. He gives Ari and Roa the nod. He's counting on them. Rust headed for the tent. There was no time to waste. He bolts to his room, grabs his potions and douses the scrolls, shouting for the transmutation to trigger. Potions transform into magic signs and imprint onto paper. Rust preps every potion, fearing a mistake. He orders the gravity lock released to concentrate the magic now, form 9 spheres. Liquid orbs manifest by the sigils. They're top-tier materials, but Rust won't hold back now. Russ eyes the scroll. He usually saves every cent, but now he's burning through elite materials. He's not worried he'll make it all back later. Saving the campers was worth the sacrifice. Right then, his opponent started to slow down. Rapidly transmuting multiple targets takes needle-sharp focus. It's nearly impossible. Rust yanked her back, gasping that they were almost done if his focus slipped now. It was all over. He's out of materials for another try. Rosta's head starts closing, and though he fights to keep it open, his body fails him. He fights in horror as the disaster worsens and his ego spirals. Rostas is fading fast. Corinne, Roa, Arin, and the villagers flash before him. Then he snaps awake. He roared, squeezing her hand to keep the potions in place. He wouldn't have let it all go for nothing. Rust exhaled in relief, nearly passing out as he scanned the glowing white scrolls. He's crafting anti-air scrolls from magic stones and streams, a process that usually costs a fortune in time and materials. Forging 9 at once is brutal. But the scrolls fly into Rust's hands. It's finally ready. Rust eyes Rella's bracelet, remembering her advice to cut it if needed. He picks it up, thanking her. Rust eyed the exit, gripped his amulet, and rushed to help his friends, praying they were still safe. Rust hits the square as heavenly salmon swarm the sky. They charge, but Karen just grins, her face hidden behind her armor. Rest see her bloodthirsty grin as she shreds the monsters, leaving only salmon chunks falling from Karen's blade. Russ was floored. He'd just seen Krin's jet-black armor, the very gear that earned her that nickname. Kurin shreds the monsters as Rust yells, she's a total war hero. She's a rabid black bull, he's stunned. She's charging them head-on. Watching Corin fight the heavenly salmon, he realizes she's insanely strong, but lacks weight. Rest uses heavy armor and a massive sword to bridge the gap, bulking Karin up for battle. Corin slams down beside Rust, cratering the earth. Their foe is stunned by her raw power. She grins, asking if he's ready, and Rust confidently confirms he's all in. Heavenly salmon circled the sky, tracking targets. Corinne cheered his speed, just getting warmed up, while Rest noted she could handle this solo. She's unsure, pointing at the beast. Corinne tells him to look at the heavenly salmon. Rust spots a monster. Corinne warns that waking up to hunt salmon will spray caviar everywhere, so everyone's counting on him to step up. Rust grins, fully understanding. He'll wipe them out in one shot, checking his scrolls to make sure they re-ready. He tosses the scrolls, shouting it's time. Rust chants 9 times, igniting every single one. Flashes erupt in camp. Ari recognizes Master Rasta's alchemy as Karin rushes over, calling for a break. Rust waits for the flying salmon to close in. He'd shred them with grinding, but doing that mid-camp would be a disaster. The guy argued the scrolls were the opposite, but Rust roared for them to manifest. A wall rises to shield the pack as a rose sprouts from the magic sign. He slammed into the magic wall. Rose vines snare the whole flock, leaving the monsters screaming in agony. Magic fades and the monsters vanish. It's like heavenly, Sam never existed. Ari's stunned Roa beams relieved the fight's over. Corinne's impressed, but glad the monsters are dead as the rose vines vanish. Rust used manifestation scrolls to teleport and reform the rose, then thanked Rosa with a grin. Rust realizes the salmon haven to left, but they massive. Their huge fins let them fly, and their scales are reinforced with pure magic. Do they fly on magic? Russ is intrigued, but Rose brushes his face with a vine. He apologizes, promising an autopsy once the dust settles. Rosa needs to work hard, but he's leaving it at that. The salmon swarm heads for a new target, but Russ grins. It's time to wipe out these lethal pests. Rust roars, wind scatters the scrolls, and he grins the fight's almost over. Then there is Lint. He manages the food stores and doubles as the cook. Linter and his crew hack through monsters with a massive axe. But the nightmare that started in the food storage has no end in sight. A fighter storms up, barking that he's alerting Commander Lint and heading out to distract them. Linda grins and shouts, "He's wrong. Hold the circle. He's not in charge anymore." He kept smashing monsters with a grin. A heavenly salmon closed in, and as it reached him, Linter screamed for the strike. Linter fumes at the relentless monsters as the warrior smashes one, demanding a plan before they're crushed, all without missing a single strike. Linter scratches his cheek, cornered. He needs a plan fast, and it's got to be stylish. Corinne ordered them to hold, but the exhausted warrior asks for how long. They're at their limit, but Linda says they have to trust her. She's the boss. Corinne never fails them, and Lenta isn't about to start disobeying her now. Lenta hoisted his axe, rallying the crowd to fight the monsters, and they roared back in agreement. Heavenly salmon descend. Linda smirks. Morale is high, but the fight is mid, time to retreat. He's betting it all on Lady Corinne. A warrior yells for the commander to look up. Lenta snaps. That he's no leader, but gasps as he spots monsters in the sky tangled in vines. They scream and vanish. Asked if it's a new sky monster, Lint eyes the image and confirms it's no monster. Linto's stunned it's devouring heavenly salmon. A scream warns the commander the monsters broke through. He spots monsters swarming the crowd. They blast the salmon with mines, but it's a total disaster. Lintus warns the crowd the enemy is coming. Hold the line. He grips his axe, ready for the strike. The monster is inches away. Linda watches in horror. Certain it's over, he can believe he's actually dying to a heavenly salmon. Prickly vines snare the salmon, making them shriek in agony. They struggle to break free, but the grip only tightens as Lenta watches in horror. His stunned vines are growling from scrolls. This has to be the rostermaster's work. He watched the vine devour the salmon. Lenta noted they were shredded instantly. Even without the commander's axe creepy stuff. Crowds mob Linton, stunned, they're barely hanging on. His friend warns those alchemist masters are absolute monsters. Linta shakes off the shock, baffled. This carefree kid is packing some seriously lethal moves. Linta demands a status report. The soldier confirms 0 deaths, just a dozen men with minor bruises and scratches. Linta grins, glad to hear it. It was perfect. The guy nervously asks for the commander, but Linda sighs, reminding him yet again, stop calling him that. The man calls them useless, surprised. The guy looks away as Lenta calls him an idiot. He asks who'd save the civilians without them. Lenta snaps back. If the monsters broke through, how many would have died? He's proving their role is absolutely vital. Lenta looks up, claiming life is realizing your weakness against true power. The warrior stares in shock. He claps the warrior's shoulder, laughing, Don T sweated. Be glad Master Rust is on our side. Everyone's got a role to play. Linta admits they barely survived, but a sudden shout warns of a mule attack, leaving the shocked commander demanding answers. Lint shouts for volunteers. He's finishing this. Forward is the perfect defense. The warrior grinned at Lent, vowing to lead them forever as the sun finally broke through the monster-free sky. Lee Halson stumbled through the woods, soaked in fluid from his battle with Rust, exhausted and in rags. Crushed by his fate, Lee Halson dragged his feet, gasping for air as he teetered on the brink of blacking out. Everything went to hell when that creep joined the association. He could feel Rust's smug stare. Rust joined the Association for Elemental Research, claiming a lifelong love for alchemy. Lee hated everything about him, calling his passion total nonsense. Young Lehism spots a mushroom by a flower and yells to his mum, "It wasn't there yesterday." He calls it primitive mushroom alchemy, but she screams it's disgusting, demanding he destroy it before it spreads. Lehil wants to protest, but he's terrified of his mother. Jeanine tells him to drop it and asks about his day. Too scared to speak, Lehil just stares and hangs his head. Lihaile Asam's elite parents demanded perfection, pushing him to become the youngest master alchemist in history. He finally led military alchemy, but the rust set in. They called him a young genius master, but Lehigh knew it was total garbage. He swears that Rat will pay, no mercy. Pushing through the forest, he gasps, he's not alone, he's coming for everyone he knows. He vows Rust will know despair. After humiliating him, Lihelsum mocks Rust's ego, claiming he's just a lucky brat born with talent as he looks down in contempt. He stared at the leg, gasping in horror. Sam pulls a potion and yells nonsense. The man wonders how he is so lucky. Lahel screams as the potion fails, dumping every bottle onto his foot, but still gets 0 results. Things are weird, but they realize the association has the elite potions. Now, they just have to get there. Lee Haozam pulled a squirrel from his torn cloak. He hated the mess it made, but it was too late to worry about that now. He opens the scroll and chants, forging a spatial link. Lahilson commands, "Cling to my flesh, parasitic beast 4. King of Mycetes awakens." A strange white creature seeps from the scroll, latching onto Lahelsum. Engulfed by the monster, he orders it to the capital as it sprouts thread like legs and bolts across the ground. He finally reaches the capital, right before the castle. He commands the beast to stop and seals it back into the scroll with a shout, "Return." He bolts for the gate, needing that potion ASAP. Normally, guards would stop someone this suspicious, but he mumbles as people fall like fish from the sky, immune to their weapons. The army is gone. They need a rescue team now. Dark matter oozes from Lehelson's wound, searing with pain. The Alchemists' Association is right around the corner. He just needs that potion. Brevity. Yes, punchy. Yes, no, prefixes. Yes, wait, let's make it. Thought he took a wrong turn. Nope, this is it, the exact building he needs. He hits the ground, staring at the Association's ruins. Impossible. He gave her his life, she can be gone this easily. A stranger calls out, "Is that really the legendary Master Lee Hail Sum?" Well, Hilda realizes they're inside a barrier, making them invisible to the world. He grins at Lehelsum's wound, questioning if this is the Alchemists' Association, just as a flock of heavenly salmon dives from the sky. They're heading straight for the Association building, drawn to something hidden inside. He calls the attack a wild coincidence. But that annoying swordswoman saved every building except this one. He's sorry for the mess. Lee Hail Sum scrambled back and fell, shouting his name and purpose. The stranger smiles silently, then laughs. What the hell? Weirdly boring for just a man. Halsum demands thanks, then pulls back, asking what for. The stranger blamed defective magic for his plan as total failure. He flashes in and grabs Lehilsum by the face. The unknown hoists the Hailsum, pumping him full of dark matter. Well, found something tasty, he's hooked. Lee Hale's inner demon is surging. With insane mushroom magic and pure negative energy, he's perfect. The stranger offers Lael a gift as a token of his gratitude. Dark matter erupts from Lahao's wound. Lee Halesum is about to be reborn, and he's hyped he stayed for the show. Time to run before she shows up. Good luck with the demon life, Lahael Sim. Lihel wakes up to find the pain in his right leg gone. Crowds rush to check on him as Lee Hyelsum snaps his eyes open. Magic mushrooms sprout from his body. Screams erupt as mushrooms sprout, and Lajol shrieks in terror. He transforms into the demonly Hailsum, met by looks of pure disgust. He stands still as they scream, "Monster Rongit's a demon in human skin," and he just summoned a salmon from the sky. Crowds flee, screaming for someone to slay the demon Lahel Som. Destroy it now, forget the army. It's a demon, send the knights, where are the alchemists? Only wounded students are left. Sam panicked as the crowd stared in horror, sweat pouring down his face. Poison, they scream, run, no pushing. The demon reaches out to stop them, but a bullet slams into him. He turns to find the shooter. Knights surround Leihausen, pistols aimed. Their leader orders them to fire on his signal, weapons ready. The chief signals his men to lock and load. He waves his hand, unleashing a massive bullet storm that riddles Lao Sam's body. He yells to deploy the magic weapon. It's a real demon. Bullets and elements are useless. There's no doubt now. Harold signals. They're dangerously understaffed. A knight suggests a head-on charge, but Harold warns it's not that simple. This demon is poisonous. Switch elements and fire all at once. The knights roared. Chatter erupted. Leehausen tried to speak, but only choked out gibberish. He spins around to see a demon in the glass. Lahaelsum stares in shock, refusing to believe his eyes. Harold orders his men to fire as Lee growls, screaming about the heat. Fire failed. Is the demon fireproof? Harold ordered a ceasefire and drew his sword. The knights charged, but suddenly Lee Hyal looked down. He spots a manhole, liquefies, and vanishes into the night. Harold, stunned, the demon actually escaped into the sewers. The captain yells Lehigh escaped through the sewers, outrunning the knights. Karen shouts that the salmon attack hit hard, but magic stone sails will cover the losses, and she's rewarding everyone who stepped up. She looks back and calls for Ari and Roa. She says they scouted the enemy's power and shared the intel instantly. She nods. Corinne praises Linter next. He fought bravely, keeping the reckless civilians from charging the enemy and getting slaughtered. Lintus is flattered. He's retired but happy to help, as Corinne introduces Rust. He slammed a fist to his chest, vowing he was listening. She says he instantly blasted the salmon. Impressive work. He kept them safe. One wrong move meant disaster, and Karen's speechless with gratitude for Rasta. She's glad Rust joined, and he thanks her for the praise. The crowd erupts for Rust. He saved them, and everyone's ecstatic. He beamed at his friends. Everyone beamed at him. Rust's heart finally felt light. Lahalisum's escape was forgotten, and his worries vanished. Corinne reported the Lehel Sam attack to the alchemists, confirming the salmon hit the capital too. The association's struggling. Russ swore he was done, but he can't walk away from his old lair. Corinne senses chaos in the capital. They want to wait for orders, but Rust smirks. It's the perfect time to sell their magic crystals. Karen agrees it's time to sell Rasta's already waiting for a massive production run.